everyone. Welcome back to the Nintendo Prime Podcast. This is episode 82. Oh boy. We have a full panel today. You guys know the one and only Mike Odyssey. How's it going?
I thought you meant to say we have a full 6-pack today.
Well, I mean, okay, we do have a full 6-pack. It's not the OG 6-pack. Well, it's like half of the OG 6-pack.
It's still a full 6-pack. It's a 6-pack. It's a 6-pack.
6-pack's a 6-pack, I suppose. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Yeah, I got my little friend here. This is not the GameCube. It's a cube, but it's not the GameCube. It's my best friend. And yeah, doing. I'm
doing as good as you can.
Not good. I'm here because I completely forgot that today was the podcast. I'm like, man, I forgot to tell Nate. I'm gonna just click in and be here for a while. So I might be here for an hour.
That's all right. Yeah. No, you're all good, buddy. Next up here we got Paul Gale Network. How's it going, bud?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. You want to tell people a little bit about yourself for those who might not know who you are?
Yeah, I've been around the video game industry for quite a while. I go back to working for gamers.com, oneup.com, and bitmob.com, and then did work for Shag Mag along the way, and PGN started. And here I am.
That's awesome. All right, next up we got Andres Restarts here. How's it going, buddy?
Good evening, friends. I'm doing well. Feeling pretty good.
I'm assuming most of our crowd knows who he is at this point. For those who know, he's a fellow YouTuber who makes
YouTube
videos on Nintendo. I don't know how else to really.
That's what it is.
That should be in your intro. That should be in your intro. He's like, "Good evening, friends," and then start every video like that. Good evening.
Well then I'll have to start uploading my videos a little bit later.
Oh boy. All right. Next up we got Hoops and Hip Hop is back on the show. How's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty good, man. I was thinking earlier that it's been almost a year, basically like on the nose since I was last on the show.
It was all about Pokemon Legends Arceus. I think that's where I originally reached out. I was kind of like, hey, I need someone who knows Pokemon besides me. And I don't really know it. So, I really need, as Andres Restart can attest, I don't really know anything about Pokemon. So
I was not saying that.
But yeah, I'm glad to be back. Glad to get to talk about some other Nintendo stuff too, because I just talk about Pokemon on
all the time.
All the time on my own channel. So
yeah, and everyone's channels, by the way, guys, for those that are watching the live version of this, are linked down in the description. If you're listening to audio, there will be a link down in the description to the video version that'll have the links to all the channels, because the links break when I try to put them in there, but it will link to the video. So, but yes, if you guys want to go follow all of these awesome people and creators, and I don't know if I call Paul Gale a creator anymore. It's more of a, I don't know. I went to your YouTube channel today and I saw fitness instructions for Kit and Krista. So,
Yeah,
you do what you do, Paul. You do
lately, that's been a thing.
Yeah, that's been a thing. So anyways, next up we got, if it's gonna work here, there we go. We got Super Metal Day 64 back.
Hey, what's up, guys? Well, thanks for having me on. But if you guys don't know me, I cover lots of Metroid Prime, Metroid stuff, and tech videos, Switch 2 hardware stuff, discussion, all that good stuff.
Awesome.
All about it.
All about it. All right. Oh, he also does live streams. He's at the second channel. He does some.
Oh yeah, I have a live stream channel too. Yeah, I've been doing that a lot lately. A lot of fun playing games live.
Yes, it can be. All right. So we're gonna start off every episode like we do all the time and go with, what have we been playing lately? We might as well start with Super Metal Dave, since I already got him up here in the featured spot. How's it going, buddy? What have you been playing lately?
Callisto Protocol on PC. The divisive game. I really enjoyed it personally. I thought it was really good. It's like my style of game, kind of like, the very sci-fi, hardcore, very gory and dark. And I personally like the combat. People they had a problem with the combat, but personally I liked it. I thought it worked well once you learned it. And once you learn it and get used to the combat, how it flows, you can actually really enjoy the game. A lot of people had a problem with that when it first came out. Of course, a little buggy here and there, but overall, I thought it was a really, really good game. One of my favorites of 2022. I've been playing some Dead Space, getting ready for Dead Space Remake. I played Dead Space all through the first game, and then I'm on the second game on my live channel right now. So I've been playing that. getting ready for Dead Space remake, and some Resident Evil also for Resident Evil 4 remake, and some Jedi Fallen Order on the side too, getting ready for that game too, coming in March, the Jedi Survivor. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
And what a good year we have ahead of us, right?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff to play.
I'm gonna have
I
to
barely had
stop
time to
playing
play
Just Nintendo this year.
Yeah, I barely had time to play the last year. I literally don't know what I'm gonna do this year.
I still need to play Elden Ring.
Yeah.
You got 150 hours of your life to spend, and you play that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the problem. It's time.
But it's a great game. That's the other problem. Like, it's one of those you feel like you have to play it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike, what have you been playing? Anything besides Bop the COVID?
Wow, I've been playing games. As you guys know, I bought a copy of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds because it was highly recommended to me by somebody. I can't remember who, but I wanted to buy the game physically so that I can myself then extract it so that I can then put it on my Steam Deck. Which, by the way, good news, they gave me another Steam Deck after the first one burnt my hand. Yeah, so
They burnt your hand?
yeah, really quick. I got a first Steam Deck. It was overheating a lot to a point where I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm like holding it like this, and it just kept heating up and heating up. And I wasn't doing anything. I was just the main screen. I put a game in there, or not put a game. I just actually downloaded a game, that Blizzard ukulele game, I think it was. Started playing it for about 5 minutes, and it just started steaming. I'm like, is this supposed to be doing it? Steam Deck. And then I just put it down. Then when I pick it up, it was so hot in the back, it actually burnt my hand. I think it was this hand, and I even had like a blister on it, like from the back. Yeah. So I didn't turn it back. I didn't turn it back on, and contacted Steam. They gave me a hard time to exchange it. They told me, "Oh no, lower the resolution, lower the frame rates, lower the whatever." I'm like, "What am I going to lower? I'm literally playing an 8-bit game here and burning my hand because the game, you know." So they eventually they sent me another one. I set it up before I got sick, with some games. I wasn't able to legally get Zelda on there yet, but hopefully I will, and then start playing it there. But yeah, I've been having fun with my Steam Deck and just having fun.
There we go.
Yeah.
Paul Gale, what have you been playing lately?
A few things that I'm trying to get through because they're starting to become backlog games, and I don't want them to. So, Crisis Core, I'm early in that.
Awesome, yeah.
Sonic Frontiers, I'm still early in that.
Yeah.
God of War Ragnarok, I'm about halfway through. I just finished up Ghost Song, which is a fantastic indie game. I definitely recommend that one.
Nice.
And even though it came out a while ago, I'm replaying through Dragon Ball Z Kakarot because my kids are super into Dragon Ball now.
Yeah.
Reliving that journey. And yeah, that's about it so far. Oh, and I picked up Gotham Knights, and I haven't even opened it. It was just on sale for so cheap. So that one's already like now backlog,
Yeah. What can you tell me
Steam
about?
sales.
What can you tell me about Kakarot that would because I downloaded it right on Xbox Series X, and I'm like, I got into it, but I really couldn't get into it. So what can you tell me that happens later on? Does it get better later on? Does it gets me motivated to play it?
I think it gets better. I mean, I liked it from the beginning, but definitely as you play through it more, I guess the more appreciation you have for how well they handled the story recreation.
Okay, yeah.
That's if you're a fan of the story, I think that will help propel you because you do get new moves and you can apply them to your up, down, left, or right. You could change out the ladder tier and focus on the Kamehameha or focus on melee attacks. Yeah. And as you power up other characters, they become good people to swap in. So I'm rewatching the whole Dragon Ball Z anime, like all 9 seasons, and we're farther in the anime than we are right now in the game. But we just watched this, and the voice acting is so tight, and the world is good, and maybe you hold off a couple more weeks and play it when the Series X patch comes out.
Yeah,
because that looks really pretty.
That's awesome. That sounds like a good idea. Watch the series as you play. Also, try to stay on par when you play. You can watch the episode and play. Maybe that's
that's what I did. You know, I played Final Fantasy VII way back in the day, but when the Final Fantasy VII remake came out, I was replaying the old one with the new, and I was like, just mind blowing of this one underground tunnel with this robot arm was just one scene in the original, and they made a whole giant 45-minute experience of a stage in it in the remake.
That's crazy.
And so that's kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool.
All right. Let's get Andres Restart. What have you been playing lately, bud?
So, I will say, I successfully downloaded Twilight Princess HD on my Wii U.
Yeah,
it is true. You cannot purchase the game or use your credit card or an eShop card through the Wii U eShop. But if you add it on your Switch eShop and you've merged your accounts, those points will show up in your balance, so you can go back to your Wii U eShop and download whatever game. So I did manage to download Twilight Princess HD as opposed to looking for it on eBay for like $200.
Hell yeah.
I have it again, but only digitally. So I'm gonna play that. I haven't started yet though. We're trying to finish Windmaker first. Been playing through that. I'm almost done. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't played it yet, but I'm in the final third where there's those 2 dungeons you can do out of order, and there's you kind of that's where the game like really opens up in terms of your exploration. I'm there. I think it's really good. One little thing I will say, I was doing one of the side quests in Windfall where it changes like every little bit you do in the game, like different characters show up, so it's kind of like different side quests you can do in the town. And I was chasing the little girl. It's like breaking into the lock for the shop. And what's funny is that when you're kind of following her at night, she's like, because she's trying to sneak in and like break into to steal money from the shop, so she doesn't want anyone following her. But if she hears you make a step, she'll look back, and then Link like gets up and makes a meowing sound to just kind of like trick her that it's just a cat, which I just thought was hilarious. It's just it's amazing playing a game that's this old, but there's just so many like nice little details that are really fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's what I've been doing lately.
That's Wind Waker HD, right?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah, it's really good.
So good. It's so polished. Like it's especially with the remastering, like it's timeless basically.
It's literally polished. Like you can see all the polish on the screen for that game.
It's so tiny, everyone.
True.
It's tiny. Hoops, what have you been playing lately, bud?
Well, as the Pokemon guy and being that time of year, I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and it's just now getting to the point where it's like I can kind of like simmer down and like take a breather, because I was like full force on that game. I've been full force for a while, covering it on my channel. And I mean, I honestly have really enjoyed it a lot. There's been a lot of like stuff said about the game and like technical performance issues and stuff like that, but in my experience, I've had like some frame drops, but like that's really been it. So I've for the most part had a smooth experience, and it's honestly been a ton of fun. There's a lot of things in the game that are like the best that they've been in Pokemon, and so it's been it's kind of ascended to one of my like, I think I've got it like in my top 3. It's hard for me to like
That's awesome.
narrow it down further from there, but yeah, I've been having a good time.
How'd you feel about the story, like that final main quest?
That's
So
awesome.
the final like climax or whatever, easily like the best ending in any Pokemon game,
Right?
And my jaw was like on the floor the whole time. It was
I had
kind of
goosebumps with that final fight, because I thought it's scripted, but it makes you feel like you have no chance.
right, yeah, and it was just like so well put together, and it was kind of funny because I was kind of just trying to finish the game as quickly as I could, just because I needed to get through it. And so I was playing that part of the game pretty late at night, and I was kind of dozing in and out a little bit, like trying to stay awake. And I hit the part where they hit you with that big plot twist. And like, I instantly like woke up. I was like, what did you just say? And from there I was hooked. So
Did you feel like that, like that game presents itself like it's giving you 3 paths, right? You can do whatever you want and whatever you want, but all of a sudden it brings it all together, and then
Yeah.
gives the finale. It's like, oh wow, everything you've been doing, no matter in what order, has come to this. You
I
know,
actually feel like it's very similar to Wind Waker, actually. Because like when just think about like the structure of the game, there's like certain things in like not exactly right, but like in Wind Waker, like there are certain things you can kind of do at your own pace, and there's like several phases of the game, and then at the very end, there's like this really big moment that you wouldn't expect because of the overall aesthetic of the game, right? And then you take Scarlet and Violet. There are parts of the game that it's obviously it's an open game. You can do a lot of things out of order, but it's kind of like in phases. And then at the end of the game, as you alluded to, there's like this big moment. You're like, whoa, I would never have expected this for a Pokemon game. And there it was. So just kind of like an interesting similarity there. And I also really like Scarlet and Violet despite its issues.
Yeah. And honestly, I really loved that 3 story quest system too, because it was like, it honestly felt like I always had something fun and cool I could go do. And I could always like switch it up. If I was doing the gyms, I could go do the like Evil Team Star Quest or whatever. And I thought like the pacing of that was really good. So I enjoyed that a lot too.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I actually really enjoyed the game myself. The thing is, I'm not actually done with it, and I am frozen, which is fun.
Speaking of this topic, very fitting.
Yeah,
okay. I'll just switch what camera I'm using. This camera seems to always have issues on this app.
Did you have any freezing problems with the game?
About it if you want. I'm just gonna switch my camera quick.
I almost feel like people that had all of these jarring issues in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet intentionally tried to make the game break to get there, because I haven't been in it either, but in my 15 hours of gameplay, I haven't experienced anything all off-putting. A couple of glitches here and there, but I haven't fallen through anything. I didn't become a helicopter as a Pokemon. I didn't go giant. It's like you could kind of break any game. So
yeah, you know, I've actually had that same thought myself, because like I don't want to discount anyone who has had a problem with the game, but everyone who I've talked to and myself, it's just been like some frame drops, some people kind of like chugging along in the background, but like nothing that is going to take away from your experience, basically. So
I agree.
I might be slightly more pessimistic than you guys on it, but I'm still like a big Pokemon fan. Like I love it. To me, it was pretty evident that they kind of rushed the game a little bit, right? Like I feel like it definitely needed like at least a couple more months to polish. But someone like brought up to me the other day, like, and I totally agree with it. Basically, while there are performance issues, it does impact your enjoyment, but by like 1%. Like it doesn't really ultimately stop you from enjoying the game, I would say, but obviously it depends on the person. You know, for some people, frame rate issues can be more jarring than others. And from what I've seen, it can be there's a little bit of a randomness to it, I guess, right? So for some people, it might be worse, but I mean, I will agree there was nothing that was like absolutely breaking of the game. There were maybe a couple of moments where because I like to explore a lot, I try to like sometimes do what I don't think I'm supposed to do. And that led to me getting stuck a couple times. And I just kind of had to like toggle my legendary a few times to get out. But otherwise, like, yeah, just like, you know, frame rate issues and things like that. But I still found myself enjoying the game every time I played it.
Yeah, me personally, I'm not a fan of Pokemon at all. And I haven't played the game, but I have watched people stream the game, and it doesn't look good or anything like that. It looks like a Wii game, like up-res a little bit more, and it which is fine, but like I don't really have any feelings about the game necessarily. I just don't think it's impressive on a technical standpoint. But as far as the game being played, I didn't really notice any problems with the streamers playing the game. So like they were having fun with the gameplay, but like the game just they would mention how bad the game looked every now and then. Like, wow, this looks so bad, like so low res. Basically, a lot of the details just very low res on screen. That was really the only thing I noticed. So I mean, if that's okay, if you're okay with that, then you can still probably have fun with the game if you're a fan of Pokemon. Yeah,
I'm in the. I'm not sure if I'm a minority, but I'm happy to find other people who have actually had a really good experience with the game, because I'm in that crew. I'm in the crew where I've actually I had the best experience with the game. I'm legally blind, so if I saw a frame rate, probably would catch it. you know, but when it comes to the game itself, I thought it was beautifully built. The story was amazing. The game looked great. It's the first fully open world Pokemon game. You know, and I played it on my large screen TV. I love the art style. I'm used to the art style. I understand there's a lot of people who look and pick for things that might compare, because I know there's a lot out there to compare to. But when it comes to just focusing on the actual game and comparing it to the rest of the lineup, I feel like this game was to me, in my opinion, was it one of the best for me. It's in my top also. It's my top 5 games.
I haven't thought about ranking it, but even though it's had its issues, like I think it has more issues than other Pokemon games. I think the good stuff is better than the good stuff from previous games. So like, I haven't ranked it yet, but like it's definitely up there. I'm not sure if I would rank it like Legends Arceus. I feel like is a more complete game, but just the good in Scarlet and Violet is just like I would say top of the line for the series. So it's tough for me to rank it, but I wouldn't not recommend it for any Pokemon fan. Like it's a great game.
I'm not a Pokemon fan at all. I'm not a fan. I'm not a Pokemon expert. My daughter got me into Pokemon like really with Sword and Shield. She got into Pokemon like crazy, and then I started playing with her. And then she wanted to get this one too, so I played this one with her, with my daughter. This is our bonding game, Pokemon. So, I think I enjoyed it double just because of that. And I saw her playing. This is the thing, sometimes we as content creators, we love to actually analyze games and look at look how they're built, look at how polished they've been. But when I see my daughter playing it, she's like, "Oh my God, Daddy, this game is so beautiful! And look at that over here, and look at that! How big this world! Look at that waterfall!
It's so beautiful.
They're so captivated,
Looks better than Roblox.
My little pixel,
You don't diss my kid's favorite game.
Well, I mean, that's my point, though, right? Like,
yeah, but that's the thing that I guess this is why the game has sold so much, and it kind of broke a record the first week, and even after all the issues that are coming out, this game kept selling and selling and selling and selling and selling, and to this day, it's still in top 10 around. You know what I mean? But
the thing about Pokemon, that Pokemon versus like a game like Sonic Frontiers on the Switch, I think Sonic Frontiers looks worse actually, because it has a distracting. It looks so bad that it's like distracting. Like, and also the game is drawing itself in front of you on the Switch, and then you have the other levels where the levels look good, but when you go in the open world, it looks terrible. But on Pokemon, at least you have one consistent look. That's mediocre. Or below that, and at least you have one type of look you're looking at. It's like it's a consistency at least that people can get used to.
I would rather have consistent Xbox 360 visuals than something that looks amazing when I walk inside a building, and when I walk out, it's
listen. Pokemon, the Sonic game Frontiers, I was gonna skip it. I did not know if I was gonna get it. All right. So you know what? Let me decide to let me buy it. I buy it on Switch.
Oh
no! And then I was so upset on exactly what you just stated, on how it looked on Switch. I spent $100 and I bought it on Xbox Series X. And so at a game that I wasn't gonna spend a dime on, I spent $100 because I had to buy I wanted to buy the Xbox version just to make sure that it wasn't my Switch. That was bad. Yeah, it was a Switch. It was important.
It's more so just distracting, really. Yeah. That's all it is. So yeah,
it was.
If you're playing a game and it's having that much problems to like just draw the game in front of you, literally Sonic's running, the game is like loading in front of him as he runs. So it's like,
that's his power.
I'm good.
Yeah,
makes grass grow though. That's his power.
That's hilarious.
Oh, there you go. Sonic Frontiers, literally.
He's running in time, like the Flash does. He runs in time, so he's actually watching the grass grow as he goes.
See,
to be fair, you guys brought up the game I was playing, so that's the game I was going to talk. I guess I don't need to bring it up anymore. Sonic Frontiers. That's.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Roblox.
No. My kids are the Roblox ones. No. Okay, I guess. So we have a bunch of topics to get to today, guys. Obviously, we're talking about Nintendo Direct, Metro Prime. some Pokemon, maybe some hardware stuff later. So let's just get into the Nintendo Direct stuff, since it kind of sort of feels like there's something coming. There's something brewing. We expect one probably by the end of February, based on the way things have been over the last at least 4 years, or at least through the Switch era. However, interestingly enough, it kind of came up on yesterday's stream that I did, but that's a little tiny live stream. It's not a podcast. I gotta bring Paul Gill Network up here, because he apparently has a source that we might not be waiting until February or something. So what's up, Paul?
Hopefully. So, when I was compiling the reason why I compiled the list was because of what I was told. And what I was told was just a little bit of the snippet from somebody that expects something from Nintendo sooner than later. So I thought, what does sooner than later mean? So I looked at the last, 12 years worth of the first 4 months of the year Nintendo Directs, and saw that, 7 out of 12 take place on the month of February, including the Animal Crossing one in 2020. So we've got a greater than 50% chance that one's coming February, but there also is the chance that they exist in January, March, or April. So at the very basic, I thought, well, sooner than later could just mean it's going to be one of those January, February months instead of March or April.
Yeah.
But that seems almost too obvious. Like, most of us are expecting one to come in like early or mid-February. But with certain other rumors going on that, Metroid Prime could have been ready for revealing in the fall of 2022 and wasn't, could it be the time now to have this is speculation. Now it goes into speculation time. Could there be something like a Nintendo Direct Mini that is game focused, whether it's for Metroid Prime or something simpler like a Fire Emblem Engage specific Nintendo Direct, which seems, to settle expectations, that's probably the more likely of the thing. If they're going to have a small little mini Direct, use it as a January something or other to blast out Engage. It could be for something else though, but do you want to go too big and overwhelm Fire Emblem Engage, or something that's different enough and farther enough in advance that it's not competing? Different art style, different type of game. Like, no one's going to mistake Donkey Kong for Fire Emblem, so they show us Donkey Kong. No, I'm saying probably not. But is that their strategy, or does the whole thing just mean no? It's expected in the first 2 months, not the last two. But my interpretation was, don't be too surprised if we get something small in January and potentially also in February. That's kind of how I inferred it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And we were talking like, well, what about GoldenEye? Is GoldenEye big enough to have its own just mini Direct presentation, or is that just it's a Twitter drop? Obviously, Nintendo knows people have been looking forward to this one for a long time. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just my own logic, right? But my logic would dictate that there's no way we get a Direct Mini this month. And I only say that because Tears of the Kingdom is coming out in May, right? I don't see Nintendo giving us a Direct Mini that has Zelda in it. Like, if Tears of the Kingdom is in it, it's no longer a mini in my eyes, right?
Right.
So then do they give us a mini without talking about Zelda, even though it's coming out in May? Which I also don't really see happening. So either A, we get a general Direct earlier than expected, or it's, to your point, like a game-specific Direct, like for Fire Emblem, which I could see happening. Or
that's a safer bet.
Super, super crazy optimistic pipe dream, they give us a Metroid Direct, but that's just me like dreaming upon dreaming. I don't expect that at all.
To give you a smidge of expectation on that, there is that Reddit rumor. There's actually a ton of rumors right now, but there's this Reddit rumor from a supposed person that has a 100% track record that said, and he's very cryptic, and you have to read the words he says are what give it away. He basically said, "Are you primed and ready?" And every time he says something, it's something that happens within 2 weeks. And he's now deleted his account because one of the moderators of the Gaming and Leaks subreddit who posted about it, because it's all through DMs, because he put his username out there, he instantly deleted his account after that post went up.
They were on my live stream the other day.
Yeah.
The Reddit user. Yeah.
So, like, is there some Metroid Prime stuff potentially coming soon? And then again, like Paul Gale Network says soon. I don't know who his source is, by the way. All I know is we were told soon for GoldenEye in September.
Yeah.
It's been 3 months.
January.
No.
4 months.
I don't think there's going to be a Nintendo Direct in January. We have this conversation every single year. It's going to be February, June, and September. Repeat after me. I'm kidding. February. So basically, that's what I believe. February, June, September. I am with Paul Gill because I went to research and I saw Nintendo Direct Minis, but they were third-party games. That could be possible. We can have a Direct Mini, but with third-party games at the end of January, then have a full Nintendo Direct mid to end February.
You mean like a partner showcase?
Partner
in
showcase,
January.
Yeah. I remember seeing one of those Direct Minis, and then right below says third-party games on them when I was looking at
They just rebranded them now to partner showcases.
Yeah, so a partner showcase at towards the end of this year, just to kind of throw some games out there for the rest of the year, and then of course fill out the rest of the year in this February Direct. Nintendo normally at the end of September or September Directs are to tell us about the first half of the year. This Direct is to fill out the year, the rest of the year. So we'll probably hear any games from here to the rest of the year, and then But what I feel is that what's going to happen this Nintendo Direct is that we're going to get remakes. There's going to be a lot of remakes and a lot of ports, because if we are truly in that final stage of, I'm not going to say final stage. I don't want to scare Switch users, because let me give you some comfort. If a new console comes out, the Switch is not going to go away for at least 2 or 3 more years. Still going to be there. Nintendo's going to continue to support. Look, the Wii U is still around, barely, but it's still around.
The Wii U is alive and well, man. Come on,
it's there.
Yeah, I'm playing Wind Waker.
What kind of support are we talking
just got
about?
Twilight Princess HD.
I mean, they did stop making the Wii U before they had a new system.
Well, they stopped making it, but they stopped supporting it. That's what I'm saying.
No, I mean, I guess by not shutting down the servers is still support.
Yeah.
But that was also a market failure, right? So,
It still exists until what, March? Something like that. When are they shutting that down?
March 2023.
So it kind of coincides with maybe brand new hardware coming out, hopefully soon, or the announcement.
You're probably the only person that I'm like, hey, they're shutting down Wii U, and that's a sign.
That's a sign. That is a sign right there. It's happening. It's happening. But yeah, Nintendo's going to fill out the rest of the year. I feel like Metro Prime 4 is going to be announced, Nate.
Okay. We have Metro Prime 4 topic later, but
good.
That's okay.
The remakes, I mean, I'm guessing one remake is coming, right? Twilight Princess is coming, Nate.
Oh, here we go. See, Mike has done this big pipe dream for every major Nintendo event.
Wind Waker is coming, Nate, because this is the Direct of ports and of remakes and of remasters. Okay,
Sure.
So if this is the Direct of ports, remake, and remasters, you can expect 007 to make it to the Direct as well. As an addition.
I expect it to be like a shadow drop, same day drop.
That's just a ROM, though, really, right?
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
shadow drop.
Yeah, I can see that shit being shadow dropped. Maybe before
One
there's a
thing
direct.
I'm going to say that I feel like I see every day more and more coming to a Nintendo Online is I'm pretty sure you guys are not going to agree, but just because there are certain games from this same console that are being remastered remake with the GameCube.
You mean adding it to virtual online?
Yeah, I have virtual console. This is not going to affect those games that are being remastered, because they're not going to be part of it. There's so many other games that could be part of Nintendo Online that they don't have to remaster and still have it online for us to play in the GameCube era. There's a lot of games there, so we can have a surprise addition to a new console.
There's also a good possibility. We didn't touch on this earlier, but that Reddit user alluding to Prime, it could very well just be Amazon Prime coming to Nintendo Switch Online.
Oh, that would be such a fake out.
Primed in
Oh,
Reddit.
man.
That's
That would be the greatest.
Yeah.
He's still 100%, but what a troll.
Amazon Prime.
What a troll.
I do want to focus on that for a little bit, right? Because I feel like if there's anything that's kind of like suggesting we get a direct before February,
No,
it's if that's true. And that, I mean, you take it with a grain of salt, right? Because it's a Reddit user. Maybe they just got a few lucky guesses in a row. It's hard to say for sure. But I feel like the implication, right? Like if, for example, the previous thing they got right was teasing the Tears of the Kingdom title, and they did that a day before the direct. And to your point, Nate, you said there's a history of them teasing things like Skyward Sword, WarioWare, all like within a couple weeks before they were announced.
Yep.
Well, I mean, if that's all true, the implication here is that whatever that primed and ready illusion is, it would be alluding to something that we don't know about within the next 2 weeks.
Metroid Twitter drop.
And I mean, that's, but I actually could kind of see something like that though, because I feel like Metroid Prime, if the remaster thing is happening, I could almost see Nintendo treating that kind of like the Skyward Sword HD to Tears of the Kingdom, right? Like it's announced early in the year, comes out maybe mid to late summer, and then about a year and a half later, we see the big boy come out. In this case, it'd be Prime 4.
Okay. Hoops, you got any thoughts on this direct? Like, when's it happening? What's going to be there? What's going on? What do you think?
Yeah, so
talk beyond Pokemon. So now's your time.
Oh yeah, like
I'm
ready. So my main thing as far as a direct in January that I feel like throws a wrench into the idea is Fire Emblem, because Fire Emblem isn't just some kind of like throwaway title. It's pretty like prestigious, I would say, especially because it's not a re-release, it's not a port, it's a brand new one.
Exactly.
So I feel like they would most likely not do a direct that has Metroid Prime or Zelda in the vicinity of this game coming out, because they don't want to cannibalize the attention that they want Fire Emblem to get. So I can't remember exactly what the release date is, but the only way I could see it happening is if it was like a week or two after Fire Emblem comes out.
There's time, because it comes out the 20th. So they could do it a week later, technically.
So like, like I could maybe see like 28th or 29th, whatever, because they have done that before with games like, I don't know, they've done it with several games where they'll have their like whatever it is, like Splatoon or something of that upper echelon come out, and they'll sort of recap it in the direct to still like get people's attention on it and get it in front of people, and then they'll sort of move on with like that one final announcement, and that'll be the Zelda, the Metroid, or whatever.
That I mean, that is definitely the way they have done some things before. Do you have any, like, I don't know, maybe predictions on some games you'd like to see in this direct, Hoops?
Well, I think whenever we do get a direct, whether it's January or February, I feel like Zelda's got to be there, just because we know so little, and we can't use the classic excuse of, oh, they're going to save it for E3, because by the time E3 comes around, it's going to be out. And we're kind of running out of time to sort of like have it in a direct and talk about it and things like that. So I feel like that will be the focus. I also agree with you guys that like Metroid has got to be coming. I'm not sure like where it fits in, because Zelda's going to become the focus, and it's kind of the same thing that I was talking about with Fire Emblem, where you don't want to like do both at the same time and sort of have one overshadow the other. So I feel like if Metroid is going to happen, it's probably going to be more in the holiday-ish time frame, like November or October, and it would be the E3 game, because then Zelda's out at that point, and it's like that core-centric
kind of game that a lot of like I think a lot of Metroid and Zelda fans kind of align a little bit. That makes sense.
I see it like a tease, and then all of a sudden give Metroid Prime 4 its own stage to, you know.
Because sometimes when I'm like trying to describe Prime to like casuals, I'm like, it's Space Zelda in first person.
Casual.
Well, honestly, I am a person who hasn't really played a lot of Metroid, but I've been following what's been going on with Prime 4 and the redevelopment, and they've just been like throwing the wall at this game in terms of hiring super prestigious people, like pulling people from Call of Duty and all this stuff.
Uncharted.
And so I'm expecting a lot when we get it, and that's kind of what makes me think they're going to give it that attention and that like primetime slot, because it feels like they're taking it seriously.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, Dave, you got some thoughts here on this direct business.
Yeah, if a direct happens, it'll either be like next week or like in February. Like I don't think they'll try to like do it at the same time that Fire Emblem comes out, like you guys were saying. So either in the next couple weeks or they're gonna wait till early February, somewhere around there if they do that. But yeah, they're unpredictable, really. Like you got people who have been wrong with these direct things for the past, like 3 years now, as far as trying to predict when it's going to happen. And time range is always like, yeah, of course. Do they always have a direct in early of the the year? Yes. Do they have a direct in the summer? Yes. Do they have a direct in September? Yes. So it's like you can kind of count on those things happening. So as far as what they're going to show, we don't know for sure. But like if they are serious about bringing out Metroid Prime, like some of the rumors are indicating, and we've been hearing about Metroid Prime remaster for the past 4+ years. So if they are finally going to do it, this probably would be the time to do it. And also Metroid is a different type of game than Zelda. So if they are planning some type of hardware announcement this year or to be released next year, even having a graphically intense game like Metroid Prime 4 to be ready for that would make a lot more sense, obviously. And getting this game out now as a remaster before they do that is great, because the Metroid fans are different from the Zelda fans. So they got to sell more than just Zelda. They have other games to sell too. So I think there's a good chance that we have both this year. Metroid Prime remaster plus, of course, Zelda.
And honestly, part of me is kind of like I know the Switch is the Switch, but part of me is kind of expecting Metroid to be sort of more graphically intense, because
Right.
like we said, they're pulling Call of Duty developers, Uncharted, and all of these other games that are like that. So it stands to reason that they're trying to like shift in that direction in terms of the vision for the game.
Yeah.
Yep. And Retro Studios has been quiet since Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze in 2014. So it's been almost 10 years. So Retro Studios isn't going to come out with something that just looks like Pokemon.
The only thing we've gotten out of them is
but yeah,
Funky
it's just like one of those things where they're very focused on graphically intensive games. They've always have been, and they even say so in their job. When you look on their job descriptions of what they are as a company, they focus on next generation Nintendo, cutting edge next generation Nintendo hardware. That's their words that they say themselves. So expect something impressive, basically, if they show something. So we're just waiting to see it.
Something I just want to add, because I think we all fully expect Prime 4 is going to be like some sort of cross-platform release, right? It's like it's not going to just be for Switch. Like there's like almost no way that happens at this point. But like with Prime Remaster, I kind of am looking forward to seeing it for Switch, because Prime 4 probably is being developed with also the next system in mind. Like I kind of want to see what Retro Studios can do when they're just thinking about the Switch itself. And from what we've heard of the rumors, like Prime Remaster isn't like just like a basic remaster. Like it's more of something that's a little bit significant. It's had some like dev time behind it. Like, I don't know, like from what I've heard, and I don't know, right? But like, I feel like a good comparison might be like something like maybe Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, where they're changing a lot of things in it that make it look like a modern day game almost, at least for Switch standards. I'm kind of curious to see how Retro Studios can make that look really good for Switch.
Yeah, Metroid Prime is primed for a console like the Switch, and don't get me wrong, I'm excited for new hardware like anyone else would be, but the way the game's designed is good for what the Switch limitations are, because it's they design open areas but not open world, because you got to have that Metroid Prime, you got to have that Metroid door, right? And that's always going to be the loading screen, basically. They can do it better, of course, and make bigger areas, but like if they do it, my guess is that they're going to do Metroid Prime 4 similar to Metroid Prime 1 through 3, where they have the doors that are enclosed in open areas. So it's going to be more like a God of War Ragnarok, where you have like an open area, but it's still kind of enclosed. You have like structures blocking your vision. And that's how they make that game look so gorgeous on PS4 and PS5, is that they have these enclosed areas, but it makes it, you think the areas are really big because they're hiding it. It's cleverly designed. It's not open world, but it's close enough, So I think they can do that with a Metroid Prime 4 and still have it cross-platform. and take advantage of what the Switch can do, use all their tricks that they can do. Obviously, Retro Studios is not like other developers. They got full access to the hardware, and they'll have full access to their next hardware as well. So they can do a lot of good things with the current hardware, maybe 720p 30 frames and 1080p 1440p 60 frames on the next hardware.
I'm curious what you think on that though, right? Because you just mentioned 30 FPS, but if I'm not mistaken, the entire Prime series has always been at 60, right?
Yeah, I know.
So
but like that's just something I'm throwing out there just in
Right.
case. Like maybe they do a 720p 60, but like how these games these days have performance modes and quality modes. Like I think they can go that route too in the future, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I honestly was thinking myself about the possibility of it having that like dual console release, because we're sort of getting later on in the Switch's lifespan, and part of me wants to say like, yeah, that would make sense because it's been so long, but also I feel like because they've invested so much into this game, and because it's also Metroid that needs like a hit, and the Switch has got like 100 million user install base, I almost feel like they wouldn't or shouldn't want to kind of like split that user base in half almost if they were to do a dual release. And if you kind of lean that way and think, okay, then they probably will just keep it on the Switch, then that kind of brings up a lot of interesting possibilities as far as like how long the Switch is going to last. Because I mean, even if they announce it this year, like I guess it could come out holiday season like we were saying, but I think if it does end up being a exclusively Switch title, that will sort of extend the Switch's life out a little bit too. Because I don't feel like they're gonna drop Metroid and then 6 months later be like, hey, here's the Switch 2, like everyone forget about Metroid now.
You know what's kind of funny though? That's kind of what like some insiders are suggesting you're going to do with Zelda though. Like they're saying Tears of the Kingdom will be like the last big Switch game, and then afterwards Nintendo's going to start talking about next gen.
No,
I don't know. I'm a little. That doesn't sit entirely well with me because I don't know. We don't know what they're going to do, right? Or maybe one of you do. I don't know, but I don't. But what I feel, I almost kind of have this sense that what they're going to do is something that's not quite like what they've done before, where they're going to announce this next system, let's say within a year or so from now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it's announced, I'm personally thinking this holiday, just for the record, but I feel like it's going to be like Switch 2, but also not Switch 2 at the same time, where they can kind of hide behind the branding. And it's going to play a lot of games. There's going to be a lot of like, games that are backwards and maybe even forwards compatible to the system. So you'll have a situation like maybe like with Prime 4 where it's a Switch game, but it's also a better looking running Switch game on the newer version of whatever they call this next system.
Yeah.
The same thing with Zelda too.
I think that the dual release thing will be a thing for a while. Even with Metro Prime 4, if it does come out, I think it will be a dual release thing. And I think is that with the new hardware, you'll have more capabilities. Of course, the 4K resolution will be a selling point for a lot of people who want to play, especially for Metroid Prime, Metroid fans. Especially maybe they'll add some type of incentives when you play it on a certain on console as well. So those could be selling points. And of course, the backwards compatibility. I think it's important for Nintendo to not completely just chop off a head, or they do dual release, because it's not 100 million, it's 215 million accounts that they have. I think that was the last number count. 250 million, 15 million accounts, and they need to transition. And the president is Furukawa. I never get his name right. He's wasn't scared. He said he's more concerned about the way they are going to transition from one console to the next. The best way to do it is to dual console. If you want to release dual release, I know there's a lot of third-party games that will not be on Switch once the next gen comes out. That's the reality. But when it comes to first-party games, go ahead and offer some incentives on the newer games on the new console. That way you can get some people transitioning over. And then on the Switch, then have basically they say the some kind of limitations, or I can go as far as to say go ahead and give people cloud versions of the game on the actual
They
Switch.
already are.
You know what I mean?
Mm,
I mean, Nintendo has been working on their cloud thing, and they've been improving a lot. But I know there's a lot of online stuff going pretty well with Nintendo Switch Sports. Plays really well online. I mean, I don't mean the cloud version games. I mean their online platforms when it comes to the performance.
Yeah, they got
They've been improving. So maybe from here to that point, they're working on the cloud version of the game on their end that could perform a lot better than what's out there right now. Yeah, dual release is important, and backward compatibility is important for a successful transition.
I feel like some people might think that maybe, if they have games that are compatible for both systems, that might like hinder the sales for the new system. But I feel like when we take a look at sales right now, and we look at, correct me if I'm wrong, but Switch OLED is the best-selling version of the Switch right now, right? So if Switch OLED can be the best-selling version of the Switch, then when they release a newer, better system that's actually like a proper next-generation leap, that system's still going to be the best-selling system probably. And they can still afford to have games coming out for both platforms so they can have more of a smoother transition, similar to Sony.
I have a scenario that, whether it's likely or not, tell me what you think. Part of it is based in wishful thinking, but January 25th, if I'm not mistaken, this upcoming January 25th will be the 4-year anniversary of the Nintendo announcement that Metroid Prime 4 was being rebooted. So that's in exactly 3 weeks. One scenario that I could see, this is, like I said, on the optimistic side, is if Nintendo has an update. We're showing you for the first time Metroid Prime 4, but to satisfy you for now, here's coming out this year Metroid Prime Remake. So we get our Metroid Prime Remake confirmation coming out this year, but not disrespecting the fans that have been waiting for 4 years or 6 years really for Metroid Prime 4, with just a drop coming in 2024. They don't necessarily say the title, but if it's a dual release, it could be, like a March or April type of game where Metroid Prime 4 comes out as a swan song for Nintendo Switch, capitalizing on that 140 million install base by then, and as a visual powerhouse to show just how much more powerful Nintendo Switch 2 is over the base. Maybe this one is, 4K 60, but on the base Nintendo Switch, it's optimized the best that it can be. If that's a 2024 game, or if it's, Nintendo Switch 2 is too far in the future, not coming in 2024, maybe it's Metroid Prime 4 coming out this fall, November, whatever, but coming out this April, Metroid Prime Remake. Is that too short of a window? So I see if there is a January something of Metroid, that would be wonderful because, as a fan, dang, talk about poetic justice. 25th of January, 4 years to the date. The stars line up. Nintendo might not care about the stars lining up because they have their own vision, but that would just be a nice way because like Nate and I talked about this the other day. You cannot show off Metroid Prime first without giving any kind of update on 4 because it's like, okay, this is cool, but what about 4? We've been waiting for that one forever. That would be a nice way to do it.
I mean,
I just want to say one quick thing.
Yeah.
One quick thing. There's a whole bunch of things I'm sure everyone wants to say, but just one quick thing I want to say first. Whatever it is, please don't title it Metroid Prime Development Update because I'll probably have a heart attack. Because last time that happened, it wasn't good.
Confirmed tonight in the 6-pack, Metroid Prime 4 being announced January 25th. That's what's going to go.
Federation Force 2.
I was honestly thinking as we're talking about this, like the development update video, it's a where were you when this happened kind of thing. Like I can remember I was sitting on the couch in my parents' basement and I was just like, oh my gosh, oh no. Like I was watching some like car crash on the news or something.
Metroid Prime 4, we have bad news for you. Man. That's basically what it was.
Yeah.
Well, Paul says not too far fetched because that was the original plan for Breath of the Wild 2, and they released Wind Waker, and then in the winter of 2022, that was the original date for.
You mean Skyrim? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was the original wait for the original. What did I say? Wind Waker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Skyward Sword, and then the original date for it was like a prequel to Tears of the Kingdom. So and then later on we found out that they pushed it, but it was in their plans. So I could very well see Metro Prime remake announcement kind of leading the way for Metro Prime 4 in a potential future. And like if it's like that, I'm okay with 2024. If it's
sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm completely done.
Just go.
I was gonna say, and you capitalize on this announcement by being like, by the way, if you have a saved file of Metroid Dread, that's going to translate into Metroid Prime by unlocking, Samus's costume
Ooh,
from that
Dread
game.
Suit and Prime Remastered, that'd be so cool.
Smart.
And then you get a little bit of a bump in sales in Metroid Dread between January 25th and April. Metroid Prime comes out, and then you've got Prime 4 either coming next year or coming this November. Like I said, wishful thinking, but not too far-fetched necessarily. It's a very optimistic scenario. I think none of us would be disappointed if that was the case.
I think seeing Metroid Prime 4 at all this year is being really optimistic.
I'd be happy if it shows up at E3. Like that's the big.
I mean, it obviously can, right? Like we have likely 3 directs at least ahead in terms of just like general ones, right? They usually do about 3 a year when they're in their standard ways. That doesn't include minis or individual game directs and tree houses and stuff they do in between. It's interesting thinking about the Metroid stuff. Like, I guess we'll just sort of pivot a smidge, although it feels like we've been talking about Metroid this whole time, really, anyways. Because look, I don't know what's happening with Metroid Prime 4. I know Retro Studios hasn't put out a game since 2014. I know they were making something before they took over this project that never came out. And I know most of the team for Metroid Prime is no longer there. Like the ones that did the trilogy, it's almost a complete turnover. So it's like an unproven team who's never really worked with it before. But the caveat is they were able to make a pitch to Nintendo and win it back from whoever was developing it, because Nintendo clearly didn't like the progress that was happening. But it's been a while since we've heard about it. I tried to give them a little credence. Obviously, we had a pandemic happen, which we know delayed so many things across the entire industry. But it still just kind of feels like, and maybe this is just my thoughts on, I think Metroid Prime Remaster is absolutely a thing, because I trust there's enough reliable people who have said it exists for me to not be like, oh yeah, this is just vaporware. No, it probably exists, but they just know they can't even reveal this damn thing without showing Metroid Prime 4. Because I was thinking as you guys were talking, hey, Zelda gets away with this. AJ Nomo comes right on screen and says, oh, we're actually not ready to show you anything for that right now, but hey, let's go to this Link's Awakening, or let's go to this.
Yeah.
Like, but that's Zelda, which is different because it's a consistent development team that's built up the trust with the users that, oh, when you say you need longer before you can show us, we believe you. We haven't seen this game, and it was announced in 2017, long before Tears of the Kingdom was even an idea. So, oh man.
Yeah, think about that. They conceptualized and developed to completion Tears of the Kingdom before we're even going to get to see anything at all past the logo about Metroid Prime 4.
There was official art on Twitter, maybe.
Yeah, that art was nice.
Yeah.
We don't actually know if it's Prime 4 art.
That's
but
when we
it's
had
art
our
art.
discussion with
It's art
Rob,
art.
Dave, when the banner
Yeah.
art came out. We just had
That was
an
cool.
hour-long discussion just on that art
they
piece.
made that banner on Fiverr. I know Fiverr.
That felt like
Well,
like
I'm a
real
Fiverr
art to
guy.
me.
Got a
Yeah.
refund. He tried telling me it is original art. I'm like,
That's not
I
real.
look familiar. Dave, I want to drag you up into this a bit, because I think out of all of us here, you cover Metroid Prime 4 the most extensively, because you're always watching those hiring posts. You're always paying attention to all the little minute details. And I don't know that outside of the people that see your videos, that people really understand maybe where this is, or what's going on, or what their game is. Like you mentioned, every time they're talking about next generation hardware or next generation engines, and
Right.
all these little minute details. So you want to kind of give some insight that you've maybe figured out over, say, I don't know, the last year or two about their hiring process and
Yeah.
what seems to be happening, at least as much as we can get from a hiring post.
Yeah, Hoops was bringing out some some stuff. Looks like he's already been following Metroid Prime development
Oh
updates too.
no, Hoops hasn't been following it at all.
I just see articles on Facebook, basically.
yeah. But yeah, like that was the early reportings about a couple of years ago, is that they were hiring some extremely highly talented people to work on Metroid Prime 4 back in 2019, Uncharted folks and people that worked on Crysis and Call of Duty and all these very Tomb Raider and Jedi Fallen Order. Even those are some of the things that I brought out in the last couple of years. But this year, it's been about them working on hiring people to work on their engine and work on their UI for Metroid Prime 4. And it's not even speculation. They're outright saying it in their development hirings. Like in my last video I did last month, they hired somebody earlier in 2022 to work on the UI user interface of the as a technical designer. And for Metroid Prime 4, he says it right there in his job description. His name is Adlin Ramley, and he works on new features and quality of life improvements for the in-house engine for Metroid Prime 4. So basically confirming that they're using a customized engine for this game. It's not just going to be Unreal Engine 4 mixed with, or CryEngine or Unity, even though they have hired people who have experience in Unreal Engine, Unity, and CryEngine. They are developing an in-house engine for Metroid Prime 4 exclusively for whatever console this releases on. Obviously, it's going to be the Switch, because also I brought out earlier this in 2022 that they mentioned they also hired somebody from Panic Button to work on the Nintendo Switch version of Metroid Prime 4. They didn't say it exactly in that way, but they said Nintendo Switch Metroid Prime 4. Yeah. So we know it's coming out for the Nintendo Switch, but also they're hiring people that all this like expertise in next generation graphics and like features for all these new engines. So you can kind of see where this is going. But if they're developing an in-house engine, like I talked about last month, that means that they are going to be basically able to port this to the Nintendo Switch OG plus a next generation Switch, if that is the case, which it does look like it is. So that is really exciting that they're not, because like we know that Metroid Prime Unreal Engine 4 has had issues on the Nintendo Switch as far as like porting games over. So it had to be customized for them to use that on for the original Switch plus the next generation Switch, if they want to make it all look as good as it can. If you remember, was it Captain Toad Treasure Tracker?
Yeah.
They released that on the 3DS and the Wii U, right? So like it's amazing what Nintendo in-house developers can do with their hardware if they're focused on it. So this is an example we can think of. Like, I never thought they would get that game to run on a 3DS and look as good as it did, and they did that. But yeah, so like Nintendo can do anything they want with their IP and make it look as good as they want if they have the right developers doing it. And Metroid Prime 4 looks like that is the case with Retro Studios. So people, by the way, talk about how this game doesn't exist and it's vaporware, but guys, they're talking about the game directly in their job post just like a couple months ago. They're saying Metroid Prime 4, they're working on it. Like you can look at my videos and they talk about the game right there.
And it shows up on my LinkedIn every week, like the from Metro Studios and then they also mentioned Metroid Prime 4. Let me ask you this question. Now that you're here, I'm taking your time because I want to know. I want to dig your brain here. Mm-hmm. Metroid Prime 4, right? It's considered kind of like a shooter, right? Like a Nintendo's version of
first-person adventure,
first-person shooter, right? Do you think that there could be the possibility with them hiring all these amazing people from different backgrounds playing on certain games that we could have the biggest Metroid game ever created, with not only a campaign adventure mode, but also a multiplayer mode on the side?
Yeah, but I'm leaning towards them getting the single player right first. So like, but yeah, that's possible that they could have multiplayer, but like, I wouldn't like, I'd bet your money on it,
Yeah, because I know they've been pushing this multiplayer thing a lot. I know with the Pokemon new Pokemon game, doing this multiplayer thing here, and then they've had that in Mario for a long time, and maybe they will kind of merge it to other IPs where they develop a Metroid game that looks kind of like a Call of Duty kind of in the multiplayer mode, but you're actually
Right.
you're
Hunters.
actually out there in outer space doing all
Yeah.
the fun stuff.
Hunters and Federation Force, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll say this. If I'm also with Dave, like I think it's possible, but it's not something I would bet on, right? And I think it makes some sense because they want the series to sell. But I think if you look at how the Switch has been, if a game is good, that alone is enough to get it to sell. So I don't think they need to shoehorn in multiplayer to make Metroid Prime a good seller. But if it is successful, and we go back to like the early 2000s, where there was almost a Metroid game every year, maybe we could see spin-offs, or maybe like they bring back the Hunter series. Maybe they have a Federation Force series that isn't chibi style. It's actually like a really cool like co-op sort of kind of game. Like I could see them going that direction, where they're just different kinds of Metroid games that appeal to those sort of like slightly different genres. But I think Prime 4 is probably single player.
Yeah, and also nobody in the chat or anybody there should be dismissing Metroid Prime 4 showing up this year in some form as far as being showed, because look at what happened with Bayonetta 3. Now that game was disappointing to me personally, the final outcome, but like either way, people were doubting that game even existed until just last year, and they finally showed it. You know what I mean? Like, or a year before that. So like as soon as they show it, then you'll be like, oh yeah, well there it is. Well, look how far in development it's been. They've had 4 years already under their belt making this game. So don't discredit the possibility of Metroid Prime 4 showing up in at least a teaser form this year in some way, and with a Metroid Prime trilogy or remaster as well, because they've been so quiet for so long. The time is ripe, prime to see something from them, from Metro Studios.
I'll discredit it.
I've been saying it. I've been saying, no, Nate knows I've been saying it. I've been telling you, like, Metroid Prime 4, we're gonna hear from it, guaranteed. I'm the only person who says guaranteed anyway.
The thing is, once Retro Studios does show something, that's it. Then it's going to be like you're going to see
floodgates will open.
Exactly,
the floodgates will open. So that's why you're not seeing anything. Once they show you that one thing, it's like, okay, give us more. We need to see more. They're going to show you a lot. So just be ready for a lot once it does show.
So in my history of trying to predict Nintendo, what I found is I always want something sooner than it actually happens, right? But so, like, for example, what I want, right? Like, it's like somewhat possible is that maybe they announce Metroid Prime either in January or February. It comes out in that open spot for April. But what I think makes more sense, I'm talking about the remaster, by the way. I don't think Prime 4 is coming out till next year. But like, what I think is maybe more reasonable is that they, like I mentioned earlier, right? Like, maybe we have a direct, more likely February, but I won't completely ignore the possibility of somehow in January, but more likely February, as history has suggested. We have a direct. They show a number of things, including Tears of the Kingdom. They perhaps announce some extra patch or something, or bring up Fire Emblem Engage again and show a few other things. And they do also announce Metroid Prime Remaster. But I'm not expecting them to show Prime 4 in the February direct. It feels more like an E3 time kind of thing. But similar to how they handled Skyward Sword HD in 2021, what they did was they came out with their producer, AG knew it came out, had a little thing, talked about Skyward Sword HD, but also during that segment mentioned there'll be more details for Breath of the Wild, the sequel to Breath of the Wild at the time, later this year. So what I'm thinking, we're going to get that direct. They're going to announce Metroid Prime Remaster. And then who's it going to be? Kensuke Tanabe, I think, is a producer. Maybe he comes out on stage potentially, and he'll say, Metroid Prime 4 development is going well. More details later this year, which will be really exciting. It'll be more than just development's going well. It's a promise that we'll see something later this year, which I think will be summer, but they'll show off Prime Remaster. Maybe that comes out either late summer or early fall.
What I have to do is
Remaster is in February. Metroid Prime Blowout 4 in E3. That's what I feel.
Yeah,
it's not
basically.
It's not impossible for them to release a Metroid Prime Remaster and Metroid Prime 4 in the same year. One could be.
I don't think that'll happen, but you never know.
Yeah, I hope they say like here's take a look at this, and they show like a little like 15-second teaser or 20-second teaser of Metroid Prime 4. It's like, take a look at this, like, and they bow their head like they usually do, right?
Yeah.
And then but that's like after they show the trailer for Metroid Prime trilogy or remaster or whatever they'll say, and by the way, well, here's one more thing about Metroid Prime 4, and we'll have more, but take a look at this, like that kind of thing. They could do that early this year
for sure
as well.
It would be super cool too, because like Prime is such an atmospheric series, right? Like you don't need to have like this bombastic trailer, like you said, like a quick, quiet moment. It's a quiet moment where you just hear maybe like breathing, maybe like a little bit of an eerie backdrop, and you just kind of see the visor and you just moving up and down, maybe walking slowly down a dark corridor, and then screen blacks out. 2024, like even if it's just 15 seconds, that would
2
be
hour
amazing.
discussion.
2 hour discussion. Right? 2 hour discussion every day.
What does the breathing mean?
Right. The more
What's
I think
that
about
shine
it,
on the helmet mean?
the more I think about it,
The
more I think it's possible, because if with Tears of the Kingdom, they announced the game like first Breath of the Wild sequel to Breath of the Wild when they announced it. What 2000 was it 19?
1983.
The initial
19,
teaser,
2019.
Right.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, all they've been giving us is little snippets until
2 years,
2023. From Metroid Prime 4 till now, they just that little logo. So I feel like the time for Metroid Prime 4 has come. I think this is a year where we're gonna see all those little hints and all those little teases from Metroid Prime 4, and getting starting with Metroid Prime Remake to get kind of preparing us for what they have, because I feel like it is time. I think it's time.
It has to be ambitious.
Yeah.
Like by the time it's done, presumably in November, it'll have been a 5-year development cycle approximately. And that bodes well for this being Samus's, Link moment from Breath of the Wild, I hope.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think any Metroid game is going to achieve 25 million in sales, but it very well could be the best-selling Metroid game to date.
Paul,
which
I'm glad
isn't
you brought
saying
that up.
It just has to top 3 million, which is where Metroid Dread's at. But if the game looks so good and has so much hype built behind it, which I think it will, this should be a 4 million plus seller. But maybe Nintendo really wants to elevate it. Now I'm going into Nintendo fanboy territory, but give me a short 6-episode Netflix animated Metroid series that ties into it. Really go big on this. Metroid thing. Like, if you want to build your IP strong, Mario is already as strong as he could be.
Yeah.
But it's only going to get stronger with the movie and with the theme park. But some of these smaller Nintendo franchises that we love from our past, like Star Fox and Metroid and F-Zero, you kind of piggyback on what else can you do from a medium entertainment perspective, and then use that to drive, sales of the game bigger. And yeah, I think Metroid is going to be a special one. I'm rooting for it.
I see it coming to Super. I see it coming to Super Nintendo World in the future as a ride, as a shooter ride.
I guess.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Well, the thing is that Nintendo just barely established their movie studio, Nintendo Pictures, or their movie company, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Well, that's obviously a big move that shows they're dedicated to starting to getting into movies. Well, they can't just produce Mario and maybe Zelda movies. Like, that can't be all they do. So I think part of that bigger plan might be to sort of build up some of these other franchises that they have that are just sort of sitting there, like Metroid, so they can leverage them in future projects like this and make them more relevant. Because I also feel like Metroid Prime 4, it is giving me a lot of the feelings that Breath of the Wild gave me when it was in development, where it was just like there was so much mystery behind it, but you knew it was this big game that they were like really going all in on. And I feel like, I mean, obviously the games will be completely different, but I feel like the end result could be similar to where it's like, this is Metroid's Breath of the Wild, where it kind of just sort of starts a new era and kind of sets a new standard.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I mean, I feel like you brought up a lot of good points, but one thing I kind of want to just kind of focus on, I'm curious what you guys think, because Nate and I had an argument a couple weeks ago about how much Prime could sell, right? But I think you make an interesting point, Hoops, because before Breath of the Wild came out, Legend of Zelda was a big seller, but it wasn't near the level it is now, right? And we look at the Prime series, we're like, oh, there's no way it could exceed 5 or 10 million or above. But what if it is like that Breath of the Wild moment, And when Metroid Prime 4 does come out, people recognize, when I say people, I mean the mainstream, right? Like obviously us core gamers are always going to know, but like when I mean like mainstream, I mean like the 20 plus million kind of people, like, oh, this is like the best Nintendo has to offer.
Yeah.
We need to get this, right? Because I think that idea was conveyed with both Zelda and Mario, and both those games sold 25 plus million, the best selling for their respective series. Like 3D Mario, best selling 3D Mario, and best selling 3D Zelda. So what if Nintendo comes out with Metroid Prime 4 and it is understood that this is like high budget AAA cream of the crop masterpiece Nintendo content, and people for that reason are like, okay, we need to get this. And all of a sudden Metroid Prime 4 isn't just like a 3-4 million seller. It does elevate to a higher level. 25 is probably still an unrealistic expectation for Metroid, even if it is like that Breath of the Wild moment. But I do feel like there's an opportunity for it to kind of push it to another level.
Like
And
8 or 10 would be-
atmospheric sci-fi is making a comeback too. Like dark atmospheric sci-fi is getting popular again. Dead Space remake coming out, so like it's a good time for a game like Metroid Prime, atmospheric, dark, even sci-fi, and something impressive graphically. Obviously, that's what the series is known for. So yeah, I think the time is really, really good for this for Metroid Prime to be start making its big comeback and debut. And let's go.
Honestly, I feel like Metroid is a series that sort of can have a lot of mainstream appeal really easily because it's got that sci-fi vibe, and for lack of a better term, it's got that Halo feel to it. And we all know Halo is such a it's big, it's mainstream. If any like casual gamer or like an Xbox player or something like that sees Metroid, they're gonna be like, whoa, that kind of looks like Halo, that's cool. And like it's sort of gonna have that appeal, I feel like, where it'll be sort of easy to jump into even if you're not like a Metroid person, because it just looks cool.
Right. It's also that people have heard of Metroid their entire life. A lot of gamers have never played a game. When they see something that looks like that, like something like you said, like maybe looks kind of like a sci-fi Halo kind of thing, because maybe Metroid Dread wasn't their thing. Maybe they didn't want to play a side scroller. Maybe they wanted something more with more teeth or oomph to it, or graphically, because that's where the trends are these days. People want to play the most impressive looking thing out there, most atmospheric. So like something like a Metroid Prime 4 could be their gateway to Metroid, even if Metroid Dread wasn't.
So my thought on this, I've been just sitting back enjoying the show. It's awesome. I love to be on my own podcast and I just get to enjoy it. It's sweet. I'm always a bit of a devil's advocate with Metroid Prime 4 because I'm hearing everything you guys are saying, and the idea that maybe this could be like the Breath of the Wild for the series and stuff. There's like a huge caveat to all of that. Like the big success for the thing is that we're getting towards the end of the current life cycle of a platform. There's not a big enough runway. Like the Switch is losing momentum. It's not gaining momentum anymore. And that was one thing that really helped with Breath of the Wild when it blew up, was it started at the beginning of Switch and got to continue to grow as Switch was growing. And I agree that it's always sort of been a graphical showpiece for them a little bit. But also, I mean, even being a graphical showpiece, Nintendo hasn't really ever had the hardware to properly do that. And I don't think Switch is the proper hardware to do that with either. Which kind of leads me to the fact that while maybe it's had 4 years of development, 3 years of that's been during COVID. So I kind of feel like this game ain't as close to being done as people might think. And at one point, they've already decided we're shifting to the next hardware with this. And they just haven't publicly announced that yet because they're going to wait. Because, again, they don't want to drop more bad news right now. And there's no new hardware announced yet. So, like, you can't say that right now. Make people panic who own a Switch who just bought it for the holidays. But I kind of feel like Metroid Prime 4 might not be here till 2025 or whenever the new hardware is here, so it could be there at the fresh start of a system rather than dropping towards the end. I get the idea, massive install base, holy crud, yeah. And I'm telling you right now, because Tears of the Kingdom coming at the end and not the beginning, it's going to sell worse than Breath of the Wild. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I got this feeling because every time Nintendo drops big games at the end of generations, they don't do well.
Yeah,
they just don't
Skyward
do well.
Sword.
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom might be an exception in that it's going to sell 10 million, which is phenomenal for Zelda.
That would
But
be
also-
I would consider that a flop if
Yeah, but I mean,
compared to Breath of the Wild. Yeah.
it's equal to, that's a flop.
Yeah. I mean, that's also why I don't think Nintendo's going to do like a traditional generational leap. Like, I think they're going to find a way. I think that's one of the reasons why they're being so cautious, is that they want to find a way to really just kind of keep the momentum going. Like, they don't want to lose out on this insane, not just hardware sales, but like software sales, right? I think their goal is to find a way to kind of maintain hardware sales momentum and just, but also keep that software sales momentum at the same time, even though they're going to move on to a new generation. Because, I mean, to your point, like, you know, if Tears of the Kingdom is coming out at the end, like if it's like a typical end for a console generation, that does not spell good news for the sales for Tears of the Kingdom. But and that's one of the things that just makes me think it's really weird, because think about how long we've waited for Tears of the Kingdom. We're probably going to have to wait at best another 4 years, and that's being optimistic for the next Zelda. It's probably another 5 or 6. Does Nintendo really want to go like another basic half decade before their next opportunity to sell 30 million copies of a Zelda game? I don't think so. Not to mention the hardware that Zelda would push, right? So I personally feel that Nintendo is trying to be really strategic about how they transition, because I think their goal is to maintain both their hardware and sales momentum, which would lead to Tears of the Kingdom actually still selling really well, maybe being Breath of the Wild, and also Prime, however it does come out, Prime 4, it does also succeed.
Well, what makes my entire concern moot, and I think this is a nice transition into talking about hardware, is if new hardware is coming sooner rather than later. Because let's say new hardware does come this year. We obviously know there's reports and stuff from Japan that maybe, you know, that something major might happen with hardware this year. But they clarify that doesn't mean new hardware is going to release. Just a major moving part. Maybe it's at manufacturing. Maybe it's finalizing the chips and the designs or whatever they're doing. But let's say, you know, that one way to keep momentum, because like my whole fear, Tears of the Kingdom only selling 10 to 15 million when the other one doubled it up. That wouldn't be that I mean, as incredible as the second best selling Zelda game of all time, that's clearly suffering an end of life. There's something new on the horizons thing. But if new hardware is coming this year and they can kind of double dip with Zelda in the same year and get Metroid Prime 4 out as a cross generational game, or maybe even Zelda, we can't. Look, Nintendo does like this whole announce new hardware and give you like 2 months before they release something. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility of new hardware with Zelda. I don't think it's happening, but it's out there. It's a thing people are thinking. I kind of think if they do a transition and handle it the way PlayStation does, and Nintendo's never handled it that way, where they transition their big games through the current into the next, like simultaneously at the same time. And Nintendo hasn't really ever done that. And that's, I think, always hurt them when they've transitioned, in addition to obviously milking a system till no one wants to buy one anymore. That's obviously another.
That's a good idea, because that's what PS4 to PS5, that's what they did, because they kind of had to. They have like, what, 100 and almost 20 million PS4s, right? So you can't just cut those people off. You got to transition properly. And they did that well, despite the pandemic in 2020 with PS5. They made the games available day one on PS5, just transferred them over. A little bit cumbersome, you know, they fixed it with some patches, but like as far as you playing your game, PS4 games onto the next console, they did it really, really well. So Nintendo, I think they talked about that at recent investors meetings about how they want to keep you as a customer subscribed to Nintendo Online going into their next generation system. So one way to do that is just have the backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
Transfer over your account via online and then download your games again on the new system, have them run maybe a little bit better in, you know, native resolution, and then also play the new games as well. And they'll probably be cross-gen games the first year anyway. So I think that's the only way they can do it, honestly. They can't just cut people off. They got to have it be a seamless transition as much as possible.
Agreed. Yep.
A lot of Nintendo platforms, like Nate said, and you said, you know, they struggle that, you know, last year of Nintendo 64, you know, between Perfect Dark coming out and Conker's Bad Fur Day and then Nintendo GameCube, it's like, what am I doing? Last year of GameCube up until Wii to Wii U. It's the same thing. Wii U was a different story. It ended on Breath of the Wild, but, you know, that was that, you know, debut title for Nintendo Switch. And, you know, like, yeah, borrow something from PlayStation's playbook and Xbox for that matter, where you could play the latest Halo Infinite on Xbox One or on Xbox Series. Miles Morales came out late into PlayStation 4's life and was a debut title for PlayStation 5. And then into PS5's life, God of War on both, Horizon on both, and running well on both, just clearly, better in 4K and stuff like that. And once in a while, you had an exclusive like Ratchet and Clank or Returnal. So Nintendo in-house first-party games still operating on both. Mario Kart 9, perhaps down the road. Like, we got to use this 140 million install base, but we need to push. Why get a Nintendo Switch 2? Because it looks this much better. And
And to add,
and let's be clear too. I don't think they're going to go 4K with this Switch 2. I think there's going to be like
4K, but
maybe
better
upscale stuff.
yeah.
DLSS. Rely more on modern technology.
Not native 4K, but more like yeah. But I think to add a little bit, Miyamoto did say earlier, mid 2022, that the way they are developing their games now is making it more possible than ever to bring all of their catalog with them moving forward. That means that when they developed for previous consoles, maybe the structure was very, very different. So it was very hard to kind of bring a game from the Nintendo 64 over to the next console and moving forward. But now the way they're developing all their games makes it possible for all of the back catalog to move forward as you transition to the next console. So that itself, he was talking about backwards compatibility, and I think that for this console, it is a thing. I would love for them to do that Xbox, PlayStation way of just logging into your account, going down there, and then downloading your games that you've owned. Can you imagine that their selling point is, okay, look, we're sorry that we shut down the Wii U 3DS, but guess what? When you log into your Switch 2,
you won't let that go.
I want that. It's because you never know. I mean, I like to speculate like everybody else. I'm just a little more out
You're
there.
a dreamer.
One thing I think they keep though is cartridges going forward. Game cards. I think they'll have a better game card for Switch 2.
Yeah,
a more capacity, faster, read speeds. I don't think they're gonna get rid of that, at least for another console. I think I don't think they're gonna go all digital or something.
I mean, it works.
Yeah, it's a huge thing that Switch has over like Sony and Microsoft, right? Like, because the games, I mean, obviously PS5 and stuff like those systems have really great loading with their the solid state drives they have? Yeah, so like they have great loading, but like when you compare like Switch to like PS4 and Xbox One, like the Switch is like games load pretty quickly. That's an advantage of cartridges, and then also you don't have to update the entire game and install it onto your system when you load it up. Like with Switch, you can play your games really quick.
Yeah.
Right.
Game is software. Yeah, game is software. So you can put, this is a 1 terabyte right here, this little mini thingy here. So game is software. It's up to the hardware to play the software. So they put all the power on the Switch dock, but on the cartridge, they can make it smaller if they want and just put it in there, which is I feel it's good, and I think they shouldn't move away from it, just so they can keep alive the physical form of the game, because I know that digital was 70% of sales, was it, that came out recently?
It was big.
Yeah,
that was a lot, for and it was a blow for physical. So if they actually find a way to make it nice and portable and just kind of imagine one of these things I hear, but like Mario with the little Mario theme there or whatever, something that could be.
I'll say this. I wouldn't be shocked. Like I still kind of assumed that Switch 2 would have cartridges, but like I wouldn't be shocked if down the road there's like a revision that is digital only.
Yeah,
that might be a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many cool things they can do with the next gen Switch. Like, because the Switch 1 is obviously like a blueprint.
Yeah.
Like, here's our first attempt at the hybrid concept, and it's honestly very limited in what it can do. There's a lot of like speculation that the dock was going to have extra power back then, and when it first came out, they can actually do all that stuff for next gen Switch. They can actually add a dock later on that has better processing power. They can do all that kind of stuff later. So it's pretty cool. The possibilities they have opened up to them.
You know what blows my mind? We still haven't seen a price drop.
That's the longest the Nintendo system has gone by.
Thank the pandemic, man. Thank the pandemic.
Crazy. Like what happened hypothetically, and maybe I don't know, but maybe this is the reason why we don't get it till next year, but like hypothetically, like how does the pricing work? You know, let's say Switch 2 is announced around the summertime. It's launching with a new 3D Mario right at the end of for this Christmas.
$4.99.
Well, but
$500.
Yeah, but that's the thing that what that tells you is
No.
that if it's selling at this price for this type of console, that means that the next console is going to be at least $50 to $100 more, and they can keep this one at that same base price. It's going to keep selling right along with it.
The idea would be that
Guess what
Switch is still
system
relevant for years.
Guess what system's outselling the Switch right now at $4.99? It's the PS5. So if you have a next generation I'm talking about full next generation experience.
Yeah,
you get all the ports. You get games like Resident Evil 4 Remake that look good enough, like close enough type thing on the go, like Steam Deck, for example. Yeah, they can charge $4.99 for that with extra storage, and get away with it. Maybe another SKU that's $3.99 or $4.50. But yeah, I do really think they could go that route. I know it may sound too expensive, but people are willing to buy it if it's worth it to them. If it looks really good.
If Nintendo Switch. Oh, sorry, Nate. Go ahead.
No,
I'm just saying.
I hate to say it, this is almost sounding like a PlayStation Vita 2 concept here. Like $4.99 is insane to me. Like Nintendo firmly believes in hitting mass market critical price points. Yes, the PlayStation 5 is selling extremely well at $4.99. No doubt about that. But also, Nintendo Switch still outsold it in every market that wasn't the US last year. And even in the US, they outsold it overall. They just lost the holiday season, coming in at a significantly cheaper price point. Like, basically pricing out your current audience, I don't think is a way to go. Like, that's just...
I'm just saying that the possibilities are there. You never know.
Maybe everyone on this show would buy a $4.99, but we're not the average person buying Switches.
Part of what Nintendo Switch sells to is multiple units per person and multiple units per family. Mm-hmm. And when you're buying, 3 Nintendo Switch units that range between $200 to $350, and you're looking at $600 to $1,050, that's a lot cheaper than 3 systems at $1,500 as your base if they were $500. If the Nintendo Switch 2 uses the same dock, let's say as the OLED dock in particular, because that one has one extra little component in it capable of upscaling to 4K, my best case scenario would be Nintendo releases the Nintendo Switch 2 with a dock for $400 and without a dock for $300 for the people that are like, hey, I have an existing Nintendo Switch OLED model dock. This works with that, and there's how you save money. And that's how you make your next-gen console that much more affordable. Now, would it also work on the OG dock or just specifically OLED? Then it becomes a little bit of a disparity because you don't want to alienate your market and say, oh, sorry,
only messy
OLED people. But if it worked on everything, let's say it worked on all docks. If you have an original dock, it's not going to DLSS upscale to 4K. But if you have an OLED dock, it will function just as much as that $400 Nintendo Switch 2 that comes with that new shiny whatever color dock it is. And that's how I could see them. But Nintendo doesn't really do too many models simultaneously, although they kind of have with Wii U, at least. Let's say not too often, but Wii U had their Pro model in black and the regular in white. Yeah. Sometimes with the 3DS, they have a black and a teal, but that's just a color alternate. Would they go that far into having 2 different SKUs of the Nintendo Switch too?
Do you guys remember back?
It all depends on what they offer in the box. If that's what counts the most. Is what they're offering the consumer. If it's just a marginal little upgrade, then no. I want it to be free. I'm just saying, like how much these chips cost them to make, how much that technology would cost. I'm saying that it's possible they could offer something that's awesome enough that would be worth it for that cost. But like I said, like you guys said, at $399 would be what I think they would hope to shoot for. But like a $499 would be something that they have maybe a 1 terabyte model or something like that. Something that
if
have
there's
extra
an alternate SKU,
stuff.
Okay, I could see that, but I think there needs to at least be a 3. I think 3 as a base model, $399 is a cap in my mind.
I hope
And
so.
maybe like what they do is they price drop OLED down to 300, 299, and they
They would
phase
have
out
to.
base Switch, and maybe Lite even gets a price drop as well. And then they have 3 platforms they can kind of focus, or even 4 if you count that more expensive SKU, if that's the thing. And that's how they would do it. I was going to bring up, do you guys remember the early 2000s? Well, around the DS era, where Nintendo talked about this 3-pillar strategy, where they were selling the Game Boy Advance, they were selling the DS, and they were selling the GameCube, and then they moved on to the Wii. I feel like that was kind of more of a way to kind of, they were hoping the DS was going to be successful, but in case they failed, they were going to just kind of, have another version of the Game Boy Advance in the future. But I feel like now, even though Nintendo's kind of focused onto one platform, they can kind of have like sort of like a 3-pillar strategy, because they have the lights that sell well, you have the OLED that's selling well, and this next system, it's going to be for those people that want that, that really high quality next generation experience. And these 3 systems are going to sell probably for at least another 2 years or so, and then slowly they'll have to iterate and phase out the entire Switch line.
Pyro Storm brings up a good point in the chat. $70 games. So yeah, if they do price the system at $400 for Switch 2, they would obviously then increase the price to their games to be $69.99, I think, to make up any cost difference on how much they're losing per console sold. Because I think $399 for the type of like a Switch 2 that would be on par with like a Steam Deck, but the Steam Deck is older now, even older tech, and it only has 64 gigs of memory. So if they have something like that with a little bit more memory, they can make up the cost difference by selling their games at $70 and selling like a new Zelda, new Mario at $70. Yeah, everyone will go out and buy it, and they just made $10 more per game sold for like 10 million copies sold. So that's a lot of money.
Especially with the medium, Nintendo Switch is capable of holding 64 gigabyte cartridges, but that doesn't exist on the market. We see up to 32 gigs. If they get to 64, the cost is going to come down for them between now and then. But will it come down enough to justify that? Okay, we got Grand Theft Auto 6 on this 64 gig cart. It doesn't have a whole lot of compression, but enough to make it work. That's 70, but that's on the third party. Would Nintendo do it internally? You might see a structure of like, okay, these are like $65 games that are big and ambitious. But Nintendo has that now. Not every game is 60. You've got your WarioWares for 50, and you've got different titles that are ranging. But I could see maybe Nintendo having a little bit greater of a range next gen if they use the same cartridge and they just go up to 64 now. And what is it? Does digital give you a little bit of a kickback? Like if these 64 gigabyte beefy cartridges that hold these, Resident Evil 4s or whatever cost 70, does the digital version on eShop, cost you 65 or something like that?
I personally don't think Nintendo will go $499. That's basically $500 without counting the dollar, because if they go the same route as a Switch has been a console where you would buy multiple Switches in the household, right? You buy one for your kid, you want one for your wife, sometimes wants a Switch, you buy one for yourself, and it's been like a portable thing that you carry for yourself, right? And then at a $500 price point, you have a family of 4 spending $2,000 for to have a console. That kind of, I think that takes it a little bit outside what Nintendo's kind of market is going for. You know what I mean? I think it could reach $499, like Metal said, with upgraded storage on it. If you go up to 1 terabyte, but then again, if you have external storage, you can add to it. What's going to keep you from just buying external storage and just SD carding it? You know what I mean? But $499, it's I feel like it's I see it I see Nintendo basically lowering the OLED, and then maybe $399 to $350. That's the range I see the next gen console coming in at.
I hope it's $399. I hope it's not $499, but like with the way inflation is and how everything is going in the world, you never know. But yeah, like if they do raise, I do think they will raise the prices of their software to $70, because that will obviously make the price point to enter into next gen less if they have a $399 Switch 2.
Yeah,
but it's a easier pill to swallow if the games are more expensive. Like it's mentally easier for the consumer.
What would you guys prefer?
I know
Would you
Nate
prefer to
Uh-huh.
have a system that has cartridges, still physical games, but all the games are $70, or digital only and games are $60?
Ooh, wow,
I'll
that's
pay.
interesting
I
question.
will personally pay a premium for physical
Why
any
not?
day of the week.
Yeah, why not they have
'cause-
the option? Why not have the option? You know?
Well, the way I said, I feel like we get really messy, but sure.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
take
that's a
the
messy
cartridges.
for third parties. Oh, $60. Yeah, people just buy the digital one from the third parties. If they did that.
Yeah. I mean, they have the option now, and we have the crowd that loves the physical all the way. That we have crowd that they take digital. You know what I mean? And they're the same price. Imagine if one at digital is cheaper than the other. You know?
That's a really good question, Andres. Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't
Good,
know.
makes you think.
Go on.
I was just gonna say I am very passionate about physical games. Like I won't get a digital unless it's like gifted to me or if it's like a special situation, because there's just, in my opinion, as far as games go, there's nothing better than having the game in your hand and honestly owning it to a certain degree. Because I can't remember what game it was or whatever, but I remember reading the fine print one time, and it basically tells you that you're not buying the game, you're buying a license to play the game that can basically be revoked at any time at Nintendo's discretion or Sony or whoever. And so there's just a lot less, it's a lot less like, I don't know, it feels icky, and there just isn't that personal connection to the game that you have to where you can carry it wherever you go. And I think that's a big thing with Nintendo Switch specifically, because it's obviously a mobile console that you can take wherever you go. So I personally hope they keep the physical thing going. And as far as like the Switch 2, there is an interesting point I wanted to bring up. I think we're kind of all in agreement that the next console is going to be like similar to the Switch. It's going to be a hybrid model or whatever. But one thing I wanted to bring up that I thought of that kind of is pretty interesting is the fact that obviously we have had Pokemon games on the Switch. And the interesting thing about that is that Pokemon's always been a handheld series, especially the main series.
Yeah.
And now you're sort of bringing it into this home console experience with the Switch. Well, now you've got people used to home console Pokemon, and the games are selling 25 million copies for Sword and Shield. You might match that with Scarlet and Violet. There's no doubt in my mind that the sales of Pokemon are going to influence how the next Nintendo console is. And therefore, that's why I think it's going to be like, basically, they're going to continue the hybrid trend.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Here's an interesting. I think it's an interesting point, so I'm bringing it up. What if Pokemon had transitioned to make putting their games on Wii U? Wii U would not have been a market failure. Like, there's no way people don't get a Wii U to play Pokemon, right? Like, imagine.
Maybe 20 million instead
That's
of
funny.
14, but I don't know.
I think it would have been. I probably wouldn't have sold as well as Switch, but it would have done a lot better than what was it, 13 million that it sold. So
Yeah.
They would have been trying to buy Pokemon on the original Wii. They'd be like, "Why doesn't it work on my Wii?" They still wouldn't have even know what the Wii U was.
It's honestly crazy. Like, I mean, maybe it's not crazy because Pokemon is pretty mainstream, but whenever a new game comes out, it always amazes me to watch like my own friends who are not like, they're not what you would call Pokemon fans, or even like they're gamers, but like they're just so casual. It's like casual as casual can be. And they just like come out of the
FIFA and
woodwork
COD.
for Pokemon. It's crazy.
Okay.
It's like, I think it just, if you were born in the 90s, you'll carry it for the rest of your life type of deal. Like, it's just that like guilty pleasure for pretty much anyone. So
Now this gets me excited about Nintendo's possibility of bringing a lot of these franchises to the mainstream media. We spoke about this earlier. Metro Prime series on Netflix. You know what I mean? Having that going on for season and season. You know how much that's gonna do for the actual franchise. Well, we'll get that game into the 20 millions as well. You know, if we get that out there, or even a Metro Prime movie, you know, a series instead of a like a series, a movie itself, well made. And the same thing for other franchises that have been, kind of in the background, F-Zero and I keep saying Firefox. Am I right? Firefox.
Firefox. That's good.
Firefox.
Star Fox.
Star Fox.
Star Fox and Fire Emblem.
Firefox or Star Fox? Which one is it?
Star Emblem.
Star
the
Fox.
Which one is the
crossover.
browser? Which one is?
Firefield's, of course, in F-Zero.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, honestly, I think if they play their cards right with this
Yeah.
whole movie thing they're doing,
Yeah.
they're gonna basically take over the world because they're gonna
Oh,
have their games that feed into their movies, that feed
Yeah.
into their merchandise, that feed into their theme parks, that feed into their games. Like it's gonna
Yeah.
be,
And they
you
have
won't
the
be able to
mobile
stop
market
them.
area too. Like it's just kind of crazy.
Buy
yeah.
Nintendo stock right now. As soon as-
So I had a friend who messaged me the other day, and they were like trying to make the argument that maybe Nintendo's trying to compete with Disney, and I don't think that they can reasonably compete with Disney now, right?
Yeah.
But like this Mario movie, I expect it to be the best-selling video game movie by far. Like I don't think it's
It'll
gonna
do
be
a
close.
I
billion.
agree.
for sure. Yeah.
It-
And then
it
what
can't
happens
do-
after that?
It can't do
Well-
anything less than 500
more
million.
Sonic.
And if you look at
We're gonna go on to the next franchise, which is another Pokemon movie because they're not gonna ignore Pokemon. Pokemon has to come next.
I think
Detective
something,
Pikachu.
something
Yeah.
big. I think something
Yeah.
bigger than Detective Pikachu they should do, because I think Detective Pikachu was. I don't want to say it was just a proof of concept. It was more than a proof of concept, but what they did with those models, I think, actually worked really well.
Yeah.
So now, if they were to make like maybe a more original story, that's maybe something more geared towards the mainline series,
Yeah.
and see how that does, like that could be crazy.
Isn't Netflix
And
doing a live action series?
I don't. I think that was a rumor. I don't know. I don't know if there was like maybe a can. Hoops, would you know?
Well, I do remember hearing about it, but I've heard nothing since. So I'm kind of in the realm of like, it sounded official when it came out, but also like I don't know.
Yeah,
So
there was also
I guess
at one
we'll
point
see.
like supposed to be like a Zelda Netflix show, but that got canned or
Oh, yeah,
something.
They should do that, like make it like The Witcher,
Right?
But
Yeah.
not as adult, obviously, but something like that.
I was thinking Game of Thrones, but you're more like
So
More
think about
intense,
this for a
even
second.
more intense.
Look at
See,
the Marvel movies, right? The Marvel movies, there's all these different movies that, excluding the Avengers, because that brings in multiple main characters, but each movie is starring a different character, and they all do incredibly well.
Yeah.
So you look at this Mario movie, right, and like what it could become. It's what we're thinking. Like maybe down the road, it'll take time, but down the road, they could eventually position themselves where every Nintendo character has their own series of movies or episodic Netflix series, and they all do really well. And yet, in turn, that would also translate to sales with the software. Like they do have that opportunity to really push out their brands. Like there is, like the Nintendo we know today may seem big during the Switch era, but like there is definitely
Potential.
significant room for growth. Like they could go to a whole other level and then beyond.
Listen,
Well,
what they
with
have to do is the Nintendo. Well, it's being built. The Nintendo Cinematic Universe, right? Start with Mario, go Pokemon,
Donkey Kong next.
Zelda, Donkey Kong.
Okay.
Continue, right? Finalize it with the Ultimate Avengers movie, Smash Bros. Ultimate, right there, the first one. And just bring them all
Isn't
together.
Donkey Kong in the Mario movie? Isn't he
He
like
is.
in one of the
Yeah.
the Mario Kart
I
part?
think Seth
Big
Rogen
emphasis actually.
reprises
with
that.
that.
Yeah.
We had rumors that there was going to be a Donkey Kong movie, and that was potentially next. We know that theme park wise, they have the Donkey Kong minecart rides in the
They do.
patents, and that looks very ambitious. It looks like it would be a fun ride. So, if the Donkey Kong ride comes to Japan next, or is part of Florida's debut, because Florida is going to have a bigger park than California.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong movie, Donkey Kong adding into the park, Donkey
There's
Kong
gonna
game,
be a
like
game.
things line up
I
well.
have a scoop for you, Paul. I'm here in Orlando, and I was over there the other day. I saw the tracks, the tracks for the Donkey Kong coaster.
Really?
Yeah.
Rolling them down, yeah. And then they're doing a separate park. It's all same Super Nintendo world, but Donkey Kong the park they're already building, and they're doing the track for the coaster.
See,
and
that's
then-
going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So when they first had announced Super Nintendo World, at first I assumed it was gonna be like a section in like Islands of Adventure, but it's its own dedicated park.
No, it's its own dedicated park. Yeah,
Own thing.
yeah. You get in through the main entrance to Super Nintendo World, and then once you're inside, it leads you towards the entrance of Super Nintendo World, where you have that pipe to go into.
I really want to go into Time Machine and just see what this park is 15 years down the road once it has Pokemon, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Metroid, Star Fox, Kirby, Animal Crossing, like that. It'll be like the best park in the world.
All I know is that Pokemon Cafe is coming to Orlando. People are going nuts already. They're going nuts just for a cafe themed Pokemon.
Well, it's interesting that Andres brought up the idea of Disney, because I mean, like you said, that's kind of like far out to suggest that, but at the same time, Nintendo, if there's any company that could do that, it would be Nintendo, because of the franchise power they have. And I feel like what we're talking about now, potentially, if they play their cards right, is sort of like the foundations and the beginnings of what could become sort of just like a juggernaut, to where you do have like sort of a Marvel situation almost, where you got your movies and then your like streaming series, and then you've obviously got the games. They honestly have something that Disney doesn't have, because Disney doesn't have like the games that are of the quality of that Nintendo games are. They're basically just like tie-ins for the most part. So
and it's really hard to get games to be that quality, right? Like you look at Microsoft, and they're trying their very best to try to have software to compete with Sony and Nintendo. I think they're definitely gaining ground, but this is Microsoft, who's been in the games industry for decades at this point. So
a lot, and it's taking a lot to get out.
I mean,
like we'll finally see Perfect Dark and Fable, within the next couple of years.
Oh man, just bringing those up makes me want to buy an Xbox now.
Hey, you're back. I'm good.
I'm alive. It was
Welcome
more
back.
a little family. Well, not really. I guess family friend emergency that I was dealing with.
Welcome back to your own show.
That was nothing else I could really do. I'm kind of at my wit's end. So, anyways, you try to help people out, and then things get complicated.
Hey, but guys, I gotta get going. I want to thank you guys for having me on. I have to split, but yeah, appreciate you guys having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys should everyone go check out Super Mario Dave's channel. It's linked down in the description. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, all right, guys.
Have
a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Peace.
All right. Hey, we get to use this layout for the first time today. So, fancy. I know. It's like I almost know what I'm doing.
Nate's dead here.
Good.
Maybe. Although when I had to dip out for a second, I was like, which layout should I leave them on? Because no one's here to switch.
I was debating, joking that I took over your show and it's mine now. Like I just stole it.
Yeah, I saw like multiple comments in the chat while I was dealing with this stuff. And I'm like, why is this podcast happening on Nate's channel without Nate? I'm like, well, one, if I was gone, I hope the podcast would continue even without me. But
it was good. We talked about Nintendo taking over the world, actually.
Yeah, basically. Sure. Last subject was Super Nintendo World and possibilities of them expanding and stuff.
So we haven't touched upon the fact yet that the Pokemon Company announced Detective Pikachu for Switch in 2019, and it's not here.
That's gotta be.
It's an official announcement on the official Pokemon Twitter. They announced it as coming to Switch in 2019, and then just
Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu, yeah.
It's not a rumor. It's a known fact that it was announced.
Oh wow, okay. So maybe it'll be a Nintendo Direct. I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that there's a lot of like wrinkles to that story, because there was actually a report not too long ago that an employee from Creatures, who I guess is developing the game, who's part of the Pokemon Company, they basically said that like it's coming along, or like it's all like it's nearing completion. Basically, they basically reconfirmed that it still exists. But then you also on the other side have all of the reports of the Detective Pikachu movie, and the fact that the sequel to that was going to happen is apparently not happening anymore for whatever reason. And so I feel like they just don't know what to do with the Detective Pikachu brand. Like it seems like it could become its own sub-series and like sub-franchise, but maybe they don't want it to be, because they were just wanting it to be a a single one-off movie or something like that. So it just
Yeah.
seems like they really don't know what to do with what they have.
That's a shame.
I think
Maybe the
Mario.
movie
I,
did
I
too
think
well.
Mario. I think Mario's to blame for that because I remember. I remember. Is it the Super Mario Nintendo Direct? They said they've been working on the movie for 5 to 7 years already. How long was it Detective Pikachu came out?
The original game came out in like
No, the original movie,
the movie came out it was like 2018, I believe.
2018, and that's basically it, right?
2019.
2019.
2019.
So maybe that's when they
The
started.
movie, the game was earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about the movie. Yeah, I'm talking about the movie. Maybe that's what they were talking about the movie. Miyamoto kind of really, Nintendo and whatever they had planned kind of focused more on the elimination movie with Mario and scrapped everything else they had because maybe they were thinking of building up. Are we talking about the movie or are we talking about the game? I'm
I was
lost.
telling you we were talking about the game, but since you brought up the movie,
Oh,
it's kind of it's kind of tied together.
It's very confusing because they even called the game Detective Pikachu, but they already came out with Detective Pikachu in 2016, and then the movie's also called Detective Pikachu. So what is the Switch version? Like I thought the Switch version was just like an up-res port at first, but if it's taking this long, is it just an up-res port?
Well, when they announced it, I believe they announced it in a Pokemon specific director presentation or something. They specifically mentioned it as a sequel to the Detective Pikachu game.
Oh, okay.
So, but my best guess as to what is going on with the game, which is why we bring up the movie because it all kind of ties together, is I think that they just don't want Detective Pikachu to become a thing. I think the movie came out and it was supposed to just be the Detective Pikachu idea was supposed to be the excuse for the movie, but now it's become a thing. And I don't know,
did they just not like money?
I don't know if they want it to become a thing because maybe they want to make a more traditional Pokemon movie instead of having to do Detective Pikachu 2.
But it did $500 million at the box office. That is massive. They only spent 150 million on that thing. That's
it was a good
huge success, and it's by Warner Bros. So it's it doesn't even involve Illumination. It's totally different people.
Oh man, you ruined it. You just mentioned
Yeah.
Brothers.
I mean, I think as far as the movie goes,
that's who made the movie. I don't know.
It would be dumb of them to cancel it. But
maybe just a rebrand. Maybe it's not just. It's maybe it's it's kind of what we talked about earlier. Maybe it is going to still be like a live action movie with those CGI models that look amazing, but it's not going to be a Detective Pikachu storyline. It's going to be something that perhaps is a little bit more widespread or mainstream that reaches an even larger audience. Something that is more akin to a core Pokemon movie series, whatever that would be, because we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
Would they do an Origins Pokemon movie or can they start already within the Pokemon world? Like Arceus was an Origins, right? It felt like
an Arceus style movie would be really cool.
Yeah, take away the time travel and then put that village in there, and they're starting to discover Pokemon and how to catch them.
It would be real. I don't know, that could do really well. What if they went almost okay? Don't think numbers and budget. Just think theming, like Avatar, where really focus on just the exoticism of the world and the Pokemon. And you look at Pokemon marketing the last couple of generations, they've kind of really focused on treating Pokemon like they are wildlife, and there's a research effort, and it's a little bit scientific, right? You think about the regional forms and stuff like that. What if they had a movie that kind of took it in that direction, and which is sort of what Legends does, right? It feels more like you're actually out there in the wild researching these powerful creatures. Something like that could be a pretty compelling story. So I don't know. I would love that. I'd be all about it. I mean, I'd be all about any sort of mainline Pokemon movie series. Even Detective Pikachu is really cool. So,
yeah.
Pokemon Day is next month, so we're gonna get a Pokemon Presents as well.
That's true.
So not only a Nintendo Direct, but Pokemon. What are we gonna get from it in 2023?
Imagine there was a movie trailer. That would be insane.
That would be huge.
That would be so huge. Nintendo would be setting themselves up for one of their Okay, now I feel like now we're definitely going down this slippery slope of like getting uber hyped for something that's totally unsubstantiated. But like, what if there was a movie trailer and then they have Switch hardware come out next year and the Mario movie comes out and then there's Tears of the Kingdom and they show off Prime 4, like, and there's a 3D Mario, like there's all these crazy things that they could do in 1 year.
We're
doubt.
Nintendo fans. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah, it's just insane.
Hey, Mike,
It's a
Mike,
good time to be a Nintendo fan.
Mike is
In my head, it's all happening. It's all happening. It's all confirmed. It's all confirmed.
dream started. He's been telling us everything's going to happen.
Yeah, it's
And
all happening.
I'm super skeptical. I think it's going to be a really light year on Switch. I think there's maybe one more, maybe big game, and that's if new hardware drops. Otherwise, it's going to be a bunch of remasters, and I'm cool with that. Remasters can sell very well, depending on which ones they are.
First of all, F-Zero and Metroid Prime are going to be the bee's knees.
Well, they're going to be the bee's knees. I just don't think they're going to sell very well. I think there's other remasters that they could do that would sell significantly better. But that's neither here nor there because we don't know what's happening because the Direct's not here. And I know, like, I always feel like I'm the Debbie Downer, but I kind of feel like I need to be. I feel like I'm being bombarded by everyone's wet dreams for Nintendo. And I'm like, I need to bring some counterpoints into maybe snap us back. Like, I don't know. I feel like my expectations and keeping them so dry means I won't be the one disappointed this year.
Listen, February 15 is the date. Okay, get ready.
The direct date is that a
Theme
Tuesday?
Park.
Well, I think
and Zelda in a 3-month window. Like that is fact. That is going to be hype. So,
I think
it's hard to get disappointed.
I think the fact that there will be a Pokemon Presents of some kind in late February also coincides with when we can expect the Direct, because whenever we get a Pokemon Direct of some kind, you a good amount of time get a Nintendo Direct like nearby that time frame because they coordinate their announcements. Pokemon just likes to sort of have their own space. So because you're having a late February Pokemon Presents, that's another point in the favor of, I think, probably a mid to late February Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
That brings forth the question: what, if any, Pokemon games are we getting this year?
It's just gonna be DLC.
We're gonna get DLC and we could possibly get like a Detective Pikachu or I don't know, like a spin-off.
Yeah.
But main series, it's gonna be DLC for sure.
You know, I kept thinking, I'm not a fan, but they could have that other company who did Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl do another one.
Yep.
Yeah, next year.
But they could do it this year. They put it together in 2 years. It'll have been 2 years since that was made.
They just don't do that. Like the DLC is like their third version. That's kind of like they're gonna have like a physical release that has a little DLC in there. Like that's just gonna be what their focus is.
I mean,
I'd be shocked otherwise.
But here's the thing: this is a third-party company. This isn't Game Freak. They can literally be in development right now and come out this year because Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, as much as I hate it, it sold really well. And money talks. Money talks. Pokemon Company loves money.
I'm of the opinion that Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl was never supposed to exist. I think that Legends Arceus was the Sinnoh remake, and then like COVID or something happened that forcibly delayed the game. And we know like Pokemon, they have their schedules and stuff. They don't like to delay stuff. So when this had to be delayed because it came out in January, and that was that wasn't the original plan.
Yeah.
But they wanted to keep like their yearly release because they also like yearly releases. They're like, okay, what do we do? Well, we'll just contract these guys to make this for us.
And that's my point, though. It was made cheap and it sold really well. It's big money for them, and they love money. So why would they just do it again?
So wait. I feel like we are gonna get another remake. I hope it's Sun and Moon, because I want to play that one.
No, we're gonna get another remake. It's just not gonna come a year after Scarlet
It's
and Violet.
coming this summer.
I'll say this, Andres. You say we're not going to get it a year after Scarlet and Violet. Well, within literally a 12-month and 1 week period, we got 3 Pokemon games coming out. So like, can we saying that one is going to come out in 12 months? I don't think sounds so crazy. When we just had 3 in a 12-month period.
I will give you that the Legends Arceus Brilliant Diamond situation was different. And I to Hoop's point, maybe it's because they realized that Arceus wasn't going to be quite ready. But then also, part of it may have just been kind of messaging because they knew that their fans expected a proper Gen 4 remake. But with the direction they were going in, the only way they could do that is doing what they did. But to also, throw some credence your way, right? They got away with it. They got away with releasing two mainline Pokemon games within 2 months of each other.
I don't think that was a very high budget thing, and it sold a lot.
It's possible. I don't think they're going to do that.
But if you look at the game, and its art style form, right, the top down, art style form, it's an enjoyable type of form for a game. Like just like the Legend of Zelda was with Link's Awakening. I actually enjoy that art. So having this two different Pokemon games, one having like a first person kind of thing, and then the other one being like a top down kind of game, to me it made it into two completely different types of game. Even though you're doing the same exact thing, it felt different for me. And then there are a lot of people out there who did not play these other games. I'm pretty sure they want to, to get that money.
It's easier to remake.
I can easily see I can easily see that the two big Pokemon events for this year when it comes to game releases is the Scarlet and Violet massive DLC and then another top-down remake.
I think there is something to be said for like the potential of sort of a 2D 3D series, kind of like how Mario does, because like the formula of Pokemon, the original like classic Pokemon games, is like a beloved formula. So now that we're getting into the big open world stuff, I think that's something they should explore. But it's really hard to say what they're gonna do, because we've had this remake, we've had Legends, we've had Let's Go. Like they've kind of experimented a lot with their remakes and revisits. So I think within the next few years, we'll probably see the direction they really want to go, because they've probably kind of like looked at how everything is doing, and now they'll probably sort of take that next step with what their plan is going to be going forward.
Legends did so well, considering that it came out in January after people already bought Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. Like, what happens if Legends gets its own dedicated year and holiday release? Like, how much better could that series perform, especially if they also implement the proper battle system that leads to the competitive scene? Like, if they have that engine in there as well, because that's something that maybe it was cool for Legends to have to go in a different direction with that fighting system, but also because it didn't have the typical battle system the mainline games had, it was never going to be part of the competitive format, right? And it had no multiplayer. Like, what if Legends was a thing with the multiplayer? How well would that do? I mean, I guess you could kind of consider Scarlet and Violet basically the merger of that, right? So, but I don't know. I would like to see Legends get its own dedicated holiday season one time.
I'd love to see Pokemon Legends get its own series, because I think that series has a chance to be a better series from a technical visual perspective, because Game Freak is on this tight schedule of once every 3 years they have to make a new Pokemon game for generation, because they're dealing more than just the game. It's the cards and the cartoons that line up, and the toys, and the age group that maybe we buy Pokemon games, but we're probably not buying t-shirts and toys and cards and water bottles and stuff like that. So Pokemon is this giant empire. That's why they have to fit to this 3 schedule mark. But Legends, you could go ahead and take 4 or 5 years of development time on that one and make that the really ambitious game that, like, we don't have to commit and worry about this time thing. Let's iron it out.
Yeah.
And that also brings up the second question, or I don't know about a question maybe, or a thought, and that is, when does the next Pokemon game come out? Because traditionally, Pokemon Company likes to release a new generation of Pokemon game on a well-established console that already has an installed base of tens of millions. You look at, Scarlet and Violet just came out in 2022. If it's on 2025, if it's in 2025, the only system that would have 100 million plus at that point is Nintendo Switch. Or is it a Nintendo Switch 2 system? If Nintendo Switch 2 comes out in 2024 and Pokemon Generation 10 is a 2025 thing, it'll be on a system with maybe 20, 30 million systems. Is that enough for Pokemon Company? So that, other questions come into, like, well, what's next for Pokemon? Nintendo Switch is so successful. It has happened before, though, where, like when Nintendo 3DS came out in 2011, Black and White was a DS game that just happened to coincide well with a 3DS launch, but it was on the 80 million plus, 100 million plus selling DS that could be played on
Yeah.
3DS. But in order to maximize the hardware and stuff, does Pokemon Company, does Nintendo kind of push it to like, no, we've done as much as we can with this engine. We need to have the next Pokemon game on Nintendo Switch 2. Is it a dual release possibly? That's kind of a crazy thought where, you know, Pokemon version A is a Nintendo Switch game and Pokemon version B is a Nintendo Switch 2 game. Probably not. But how do you do this, you know, balance when they're so focused on this 3-year time schedule? Because
Yeah.
November 2025, that's less than 3 years away. And it's kind of a weird time where that's a late Nintendo Switch, because no
Sure.
Nintendo console has ever lasted this long and this successful. As it's about to turn 6, you know, we usually have the full-on successor come out at the 5-year mark, like from N64 to GameCube,
Yeah.
GameCube to Wii, Wii to Wii U, and then Wii U to Switch was, you know, 4 years and 4 months. So it's
The
interesting.
handhelds have lasted a little bit longer, though.
Handhelds
right?
do,
Yeah.
and the system is a bit of both. You know, it's a home console, but
Mhm.
it's treated like a handheld in some regards because, you know, it does have that. But I wonder what Pokemon Company is going to do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think for sure it's got to be at least 2 years. Like Sword and Shield came out 2019, right? And Switch was out for 2.5 years at that point, a little bit more. So they'll
Well,
have to wait a bit.
I going back to what I was saying about Pokemon games influencing Nintendo consoles, I think I've always been of the opinion that Scarlet and Violet will be the last main series games that will come out on the Switch.
I think so.
And
maybe.
but it's also, as Paul said, always the case that they wait a little bit when a new system comes out before they release their first game on it because they like that install base there. So using all of that, if I would probably say 2024, I think would be the year for the Switch 2, because then you have the next gen Pokemon game 2025. That's like a year to almost 2 years out. And there's also a possibility that they might push that game back to 2026 because that's the 30th anniversary of Pokemon. So that might convince them to like wait a year, you know.
I'm hoping
And
that they transition to 4-year gaps for generations. I feel like that would be so much better for the series because they can still have a game every year. Like,
yeah,
I'd be
between
happy
the
with
Legend
4.
series and remakes and whatever else they want to do, like and DLC, like they can do a remake, a Legends, and a DLC in between each generation consistently, and they would actually be healthy development cycles for their games.
I don't agree with none of that stuff because I'll be too old by then.
Hey,
Yeah.
Look, we're all overlooking the obvious game drop this year. It's another Let's Go game.
2024.
Bringing the Pokeball back. And we're gonna have some fun.
Actually, so
I
what's
think it's time
interesting,
for that.
what's interesting, right? So I don't think we get a remake so soon after Scarlet and Violet or even BDSP, but we go another year removed from that. I can see a remake happening 2024, maybe another Let's Go series. And I think that can make sense. And maybe that is available on the next system, maybe a cross-platform release. Because I mean, I think there's a chance Switch 2 is out by this holiday, the end of the year, or if not, maybe earliest 2024 or something like that. So regardless, by holiday 2024, I think for sure they're going to have a new system out. Then I think that game, which could be like a Let's Go game, or something, some sort of like not full on, like it's not going to be next generation. Like that would be a great way to start getting Pokemon fans to switch over to that next system, but it would still be available for Switch owners as well. And then by maybe 2025, if that's when next gen happens, they'll be ready to go.
Yeah, that's basically what they did with Let's Go, because
Mhm.
it came out a year before Sword and Shield did. So I could see that.
So basically, I'm not crazy.
About what?
One of my favorite Pokemon releases in the last 20 years might be getting a sequel this year.
No, next year.
Well, I will say, I've been
Legit.
covering this on my own channel, but in Scarlet and Violet, there is a ton of stuff that has to do with Johto for seemingly no reason whatsoever.
True.
And Johto is the region, now that we've had the Sinnoh remakes, that we have not seen in the longest amount of time. So I actually, whether it is Let's Go or I would prefer a Legends game.
Oh
But
my god,
I
that would
think
be amazing.
I think a Johto revisit of some kind could happen. Like
That'd be cool.
it could be like a stopgap title that we can see or something like that.
I swear,
That
if
would be so
Legends never
cool.
gets a sequel, I might rage quit Pokemon, even though I really enjoy Scarlet and Violet. Like
So-
seriously,
Legends would be so cool because I mean, one, we have what is that? That Suicune Paradox Pokemon, right? Like there's that. Like I could see them like Legends Ho-Oh feels like, or I mean, you could say Lugia, but I don't know, something about Ho-Oh kind of fits. You know what it is that where Ho-Oh is what the what's the tower called? Is it the Tin Tower? Or is it?
I think it's
There's two different
it's
towers.
either the Bell or the Brass Tower. One of those.
Yeah,
two.
but it's a tower that burns down, and in that town they have like a very like old. I mean, all of Johto has a very old kind of feel to it, like in a good way, and especially that town. You know, where you have like the dancer girls in the house not too far off, and there's the different like Eevee evolutions, and then there's this history of the burning tower, and then those. So was it a theory or is it a part of the lore? I'm not sure that those EVs became like the dogs.
So the part that it was Eevees is a theory, but the lore is that there was Pokemon in the tower that basically died in the fire, and
Like,
they got reborn.
And what would be cool is if like what if they have like a Legends like an older version of what those Pokemon would be. Like maybe they aren't Eevees, but there's something similar that would be like a predecessor to the Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. Like that would be so cool. I'd be all about it.
Yeah, that's like one of my dream games now for sure. I think I honestly have no idea like if they will continue it or not because they're just so hard to predict with that kind of stuff. But they would be so dumb not to. At least one more, because that game is literally what like restored the faith in a lot of people's minds in Pokemon and like kind of gave them a rebirth because they were kind of struggling after what happened with Sword and Shield and like people were not happy, and then this game came around and honestly like saved them in a lot of ways. So I think they need to take a hard look at that.
Yeah, Arceus shows that Game Freak can make quality games that could be in the Game of the Year conversation, or at least nominated for an award.
Are any of you fighting game fans, or did you like Pokken Tournament?
I do
Love Pokken Tournament.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, that could be a good fit in for something Pokemon related this year, a Pokken Tournament 2. I'd be down with that.
Bro, the Paradox, like Iron Valiant. Oh my god. Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Well, honestly,
Of the two Mega Man Pokemon.
yeah.
What are their names?
Arm Rouge and Ceruledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think something like that though that sort of like ties in some of the new Pokemon I could also see where it's like it's a game of its own, but it's also like a marketing thing for the main game, you know?
Yeah.
I'm all about it. I'm all about a Pokken Tournament too. That would be amazing.
I talked to Mr. Harada at E3 2019. I asked him that question because I was in Bandai Namco's section and we got to talk about it. And, you know, he said he would like to make a sequel, but, you know, that's not his decision. And he's gone on, you know, publicly elsewhere to say that aside from my interview, but, you know, he's up for it. It's just.
They already have an engine. It won't take them that
Nintendo
long.
want it? Does Bandai Namco, other than him, want it? Does Pokemon
I mean,
Pokemon
Bandai
Company
Namco
want it?
likes making Pokemon games, right? We even got new Pokemon Snap not too long ago.
Yeah, that was good. Like that
And-
looked nice, and
Yeah.
nobody really complained about that game's visuals.
so Bandai Namco is hiring. I know technically it's supposed to be with Nintendo, but Nintendo owns the Pokemon IP. So, what if this whole 3D action game that they're working on is a Pokemon game that they started after they finished up new Pokemon Snap? And I don't know what kind of Pokemon game it would be because it's clearly going to be a spinoff. But I'm just imagining like what they were able to do just from a visual perspective with Snap, and I know it's a picture taking game, so it's a lot different than a game you're running around and action's happening. But I kept thinking like, what if they took such a hypothetical? We have no idea what they're making, but like Well, one thing that because we were talking about the Detective Pikachu movie earlier, and one thing I wanted to talk about with it that I didn't get to is that it really felt completely different from everything Pokemon's ever done because it was very much not just this live action concept, but it was kind of like super edgy and kind of intended for a smidge of an older audience rather than just the little kids out there. Like they seem to always aim Pokemon animated show and everything else that. So what if they Bandai Namco saw that and said, "Hey, we want to make a game that's sort of like a really good-looking world of Pokemon like that on a smaller scale." I don't think they're going to let them just, "Hey, you're making a mainline Pokemon game now, 3D action style, have fun." But like a proof of concept type of game that's like a Pokemon spinoff just to see what happens, just to see what people think about
Could be
a
cool.
more like really visual, pleasing 3D action Pokemon game. I don't even know how it would play. Like I just came up with this concept on the fly during the podcast. It's not
Yeah,
a fleshed out
nice.
idea at the moment.
There was
Legends.
several years ago, Junichi Masuda, who is like basically the head producer of Pokemon,
Mhm.
said, I don't know if someone asked him a question or something, but he basically said that he would be down for a Pokemon Warriors game. And this was at the time when you had Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors. And he actually was like, yeah, that would be cool. So that's like, that will probably never happen.
Yeah,
But
Pokemon
like
genocide.
the potential of like, because like, I can totally imagine having like some sort of like Pokemon warlord type situation where you're riding around on a Pokemon, like beating up soldiers and stuff. Because they sort of did that type of vibe with Pokemon Conquest, which was like a Fire Emblem Pokemon sort of like crossover. So I think they could pull it off, even if it probably won't happen.
What's crazy is that Pokemon can be so much. You know, like we talk about Pokemon Snap. It's a picture taking game. Pokken Tournament is a Tekken style fighting Pokemon game. To your point, there's Pokemon Conquest. There's Mystery Dungeon. You have the mainline series, which has several different variants with the Legends and the Let's Goes, and like
you're forgetting the best game, Magikarp Jump. Come on now.
Magikarp Jump. How about what is it? What was it? Togepi Run or something? Like there is like that.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, like there's.
Forgetting the best stuff. I mean,
think
probably the most played Pokemon game.
I would personally want to see. You remember the mini games in Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2? I would love a dedicated like mini game Pokemon game, like a Mario Party version of Pokemon. I think
broke control sticks on that Ekans run.
I disagree with Andre. I don't want that game ever.
Okay,
ever.
well,
Let's
come over to my house and play it with me.
What I really want,
Pokemon Garlic.
I really want is a Pokemon cart. Okay, I want to see a lot of Pokemon start driving little carts, big heads, and just shooting like Pikachu has his own little power of just shooting lightning at the other cars.
I mean,
there's Pokemon Dash.
I'm feeling like Mario Kart is pretty close to just becoming Smash Kart at this point.
Right.
It's right there.
I don't want any other characters but Pokemon driving little cars.
Pikachu in a cart, Charizard in a cart, Squirtle in a cart. I'd love that.
Yeah. Hello. Squirtle can just shoot water. Pikachu can just lightning. You know, everybody has their own little individual kind of attack.
Electro could explode.
Right.
Oh boy.
That's just all I want.
Electro would be an item. It wouldn't.
They have SpongeBob car at this time. So
Nickelodeon cart.
Right.
Pokemon cards would make so much sense too.
Dude, because like Nintendo is sort of like turning Mario Kart into like a Nintendo Kart, but it's kind of weird because the Mario Kart brand is so big they can never really change the name.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to be Mario Kart because like it's so huge. You don't sell 40 million copies and be like, yeah, now we're going to call it Nintendo Kart. Like no, you keep it Mario Kart because that's what everyone knows. You call it Nintendo Kart and people might not pay as much attention.
You know what's interesting with both Tour and the DLC for 8 Deluxe, they haven't really they're kind of sticking to like the Mario Kart world, right? Like they haven't really they're not bringing in more Zelda or Animal Crossing or any other characters.
I mean, old courses and tour courses for the most part. So
yeah.
It's like a easier to do DLC.
Maybe
like, not nearly as elaborate as the original DLC.
And maybe they have that saved for Mario Kart Ultimate.
What if the next
Maybe.
game's not even a Mario Kart, but it's the next Mario Kart game is a Mario Kart game and a 3D Mario platformer in one, where you're Mario and you go around these different worlds, kind of like you do in Super Mario Galaxy. And as you enter that world and as you platform around and go through bosses and stuff like that, you unlock that world's racetrack. And that's how the setup is. It's a
Kind of
Mario
like Diddy
Kart.
Kong Racing.
Sort of like that, full-on platforming, regular adventure, Super Mario Odyssey 2 and Mario Kart 9 combined into one game, and like that's it. And you could play your racing and you could play your platforming, but you navigate the world seamlessly. And you like look at the Super Mario movie trailer.
Yeah,
That's a Mario platforming game and a Mario Kart game combined into one. Now it works differently in a movie than it would in an actual game.
Yeah.
And why would you even do that necessarily? Here you could sell a 3D platformer and a kart game. Why make them in one? But no, that would be a kind of a cool, interesting way to combine the two.
I can see the Mario movie having a game, and then one of the levels being Mario Kart, because it's in the movie. So if they base the movie, make a game based on the movie, I can see like levels of the movie.
That-
Like Mario Kart, Mario
That
Kart.
would be way too much like Inception, because then that would be a game tie-in of a movie based on a game.
right.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Do you think we get a Mario game around the time of the movie in April? Do you think they could have one?
There would have to be a direct.
You know,
like, next week.
Oh,
the
exciting.
thing we haven't been talking about this whole time is it's kind of like, why hasn't this happened? Is Odyssey 2.
right?
And like we're going on 6 years since Odyssey came out.
There was a survey, so like there was an idea at one point. It existed in the mind of Nintendo at one point.
I mean, in one way, shape, or form, they've got to have something cooking. And so I don't know if maybe that could be the holiday game this year or whatever.
It's one of the reasons why I still think 2023 for new hardware is possible. It's so hard for me to believe that Nintendo would skip a holiday following up the movie.
Yeah, well, Mario.
And not have like some sort of major Mario game.
Side scrolling Mario.
No, there's two things that can happen.
Yeah.
If there's new hardware, if there is no new hardware, then I see Mario Odyssey 2 happening. If there is new hardware, then I see a brand new Mario happening.
Oh, so either way, 3D Mario, just the branding of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because I think the only time besides old retro consoles that I saw Mario twice in one console was with the Wii, Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2, and then and that's they were both on the Wii, and then from that point moving forward, I haven't seen 2 3D Marios in one console.
Yeah. I mean, if we go back to before the 3D era, Nintendo did have multiple mainline Marios per system. That's just back then they were 2D.
Yeah. So 3D Marios.
Yeah.
We're time.
Yeah,
It's
like
time for one.
I Nintendo never really had, in my opinion, multiple 3D Marios besides the Wii, because I don't feel like the systems lasted long enough to get that second one. But we did last long enough to get the second one. Granted, the guy actually got it pretty soon after, but it was a long generation that ended up, hey, we have 2 3D Marios, Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2. And I think a lot of people think the Odyssey 2 boat may have sailed just because, hey, if we were going to get that, why wouldn't we get it in like 2019 or something like that? Like, a couple of years later. But it wasn't like they did nothing.
Bowser's
Fury. Like that's the thing. And it's actually really, really fun.
Really good.
I kind of feel like it might be an experiment.
That's my favorite game.
Yeah.
My favorite Mario game.
It's very good. Thinking on it, I feel like one of the reasons maybe why we don't see 3D Mario have like a second one, like a sequel per generation, is because look at what happened when they did do that. The Wii U happened. They didn't have a big Mario ready at launch, or it wasn't really that close to launch. And part of that's because, they focused on getting another 3D Mario ready during the Wii era. Like, I think part of the reason why we only see one mainline Mario per generation, to your point, like the generations haven't lasted long enough, but also they want to have that next Mario ready for that next system. Like, even if it's not a launch title, it's launch. It's like within that first year. So I mean, I personally, I mean, you know, if new hardware's not coming out with Zelda, it's coming out with Mario. So
Yeah.
All right. So let's just say this year. Let's just go around. Are we getting any Mario game? And if so, are we getting a 3D or a side scroller? Let's start with Mike.
If we are getting a new Mario this year, it just depends if we get new hardware or not. But if we get new hardware,
Get the
I think
hardware.
we
Get the hardware.
are. What's that?
Screw the hardware.
Okay, so no hardware this year?
No hardware.
Okay, so I would say 2D Mario.
All right. Paul Gale.
Ah, dang, put me on the spot like that.
On the spot.
Front and center.
You've got the theme park, you've got the movie. I think you've further capitalized one step further and have a game that's not just Mario Kart 8 DLC. So I'll put one in the check mark for a 2D Mario game this year.
Yeah, t-shirt that goes along with it.
All right. Andres.
A what? A t-shirt?
T-shirt.
Yeah.
T-shirt.
T-shirt. Yeah.
I mean, it ultimately comes down to what I think happens this year. If there's no, I know you said it's true system. So no matter what, I'm saying there is a Mario game that comes out this year. But the kind of Mario really comes down to what Nintendo's plan is, right? Like it.
Oh, the new system.
That's my answer. Can't go around that. That was my answer.
2D Mario is definitely like I think 2D Mario is happening unless we're getting a new system this year. If not, it's 3D Mario.
I think
and then the other comes out the year after.
I think if a new system is coming out in 2024 or later, it's launching with Mario Kart. That's my prediction.
Mario Kart.
But for this
Mario
year,
Kart 9 would be or whatever it's called, would be a huge
Yeah.
system seller.
Mario Kart Ultimate.
oh, there you go. Let me see. Hoops, what are you thinking?
Okay, this is what I'm thinking. Just as everyone else has said, we've got the movie, we've got the theme park, we've got everything going on. So the logic says that there will be a game of some kind this year to further capitalize on that. Well, we also know that the Switch has a huge install base and has had a lot of success. So because of that, it's also inclined to maybe stick around a little bit longer than its predecessors. So that's why I'm going to say that they're going to effectively end the Switch's lifespan the same way they started it, by having a Zelda and a Mario in the same year. So there will be a Mario this year, or I'm going to say Odyssey 2. I'm going to go big and say Odyssey 2.
Go big.
And that will be their holiday. That'll be their holiday game for this year.
Uh-huh.
And then they'll have the Switch 2 in 2024.
Okay. I mean, with Odyssey 2, I don't mind waiting a little longer for Switch 2. For Switch 2. So,
because I honestly feel like it is sort of my own personal bias in what I think, but I also do feel like I don't think they'll rush to the Switch 2 just because of that success they have, of that install base, and of how careful they need to be in doing that, because they're literally one step away from another Wii U situation, regardless of how well the Switch is doing or how much we think they've learned their lesson. Like, it's Nintendo. They could do it again. So I do think they've learned enough to where they're going to be careful about how they transition.
what if it's a Mario mobile game? Because I recently found another patent for a mobile game that looks just like Mario on it, and they could just give you like Mario Run 2 or rebrand it or do something different. You never know. You never know.
I think there's going to be a Mario app that releases with the movie that you can interact with a QR code on the screen in the movie.
Hey,
There's an app.
Shouldn't have your phones on while in the cinema.
Yeah, they're not going to care about that. They're doing this whole Mario experience, man.
They should have.
They're gonna drop a QR code that will contain a link to buy a special Mario amiibo in the movie.
That's awesome. That would be awesome. Can you imagine everybody like? But also, no, never mind. I forgot what I was going to say. It's a medicine. Yeah,
well, I'm going. Look. I'm going to go. There isn't going to be a new mainline Mario game this year, regardless of hardware. That doesn't mean Mario won't be here.
2D or 3D?
I know. 2D or 3D, and I'm saying neither. Neither. But Mario will be present. Mario will be present, but they're going to capitalize, and they've knew this the whole time. They're going to capitalize on the fact that people like Luigi quite a bit. And no, I'm not going Luigi's Mansion. Yes, I would love Luigi's Mansion, absolutely. But it's not Mario. Okay, it's Luigi. But they have this little-known game series that the developer basically no longer exists for, but is much beloved, that is due for a new entry if Nintendo found the right people to do it. And of course, we're talking about Mario and Luigi.
Yeah.
Well, it's still
That was
Mario.
pretty hype. I like that actually
Those
because
are really good games, and it's just kind of an unfortunate situation that they've never really gotten a chance to really be in the limelight. And this is the time. It wouldn't be considered a major release too. So, like, if that rumor is true, then okay. But also, it's still Mario and Luigi, and if it's really good, and there's the Mario movie, people like Luigi. He's just saying.
It's about Mario, dude. It's about Mario. You're wearing red right now. It's about Mario.
I'm wearing red because
It's about Mario.
I was cold and I have very few long sleeve shirts.
This is the 25th.
My mother bought me this
The
shirt.
35th anniversary of Mario Part 2 this year. It'll be all about Mario.
I feel that the Mario movie is going to have a big storyline about the brothers themselves, and I think it seems fairly evident. I mean, there could be a fake out with what they're doing, but it feels like Mario's goal is to find his brother.
Yeah,
and the beginning of the movie is going to be about them two and their brotherly bond. Maybe they even have a spat right before when they're in that room with the pipes, the basement that leads them to get split. And
Mario and Luigi time, baby.
I mean, I think there's going to be that brotherly bond, and I think Mario and Luigi getting to follow up the movie is actually a pretty good idea.
Perfect. Look, listen.
Yes. Actually agrees with me. That never happened.
Trailer. You just see in the trailer how they're splitting apart. They're trying to grab onto each other. Mario, and then they kind of let go. And then Luigi ends up somewhere else. They're not together throughout the entire movie. And then Bowser is the one who actually gets a hold of Luigi, first. And then he chops up. Luigi dies. And then the movie.
Just like in the trailer.
Spoiler. Yeah. What you didn't see is right after he rips off, after Bowser rips off part of the mustache, he just throws him in the lava. Like, game over.
That's it.
That's the
and that's where they
But
canonize having extra lives.
I like the fact that they're making they're making it like a like a brother relationship movie, because that's the kind of movie we kind of need.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of winding down here. What I kind of want to end the show a little bit by just kind of going around one more time and being sort of do we think this upcoming direct is going to be have a boatload of games, or is it just going to be one of those lighter ones because Zelda's coming out, all we need to do is just lean on that, or Mario movie's coming out, we can just lean on that? Or do you think it's gonna be the kind of directs we dream about, the ones that we only seem to get once every few years that just blow our mind? I want to let Mike start because Mike was just shaking his head no, but then he's also a dreamer. Mike's a dreamer.
I'm gonna be all right. I'll give you a first. I don't think this direct will be a big one. I think this direct will have. I think this direct will have 1 or 2 or 3 announcements that will make us happy, and then when we get those announcements, we'll be happy with the whole direct. We'll get third-party games. We'll get some farming games on the side. Hopefully a little less farming games on the side, but
75% farming.
That's the Mario game, Mario farming.
They're working with Square Enix on a Harvestella crossover for a sequel right now.
There you go. So as long as we get our Metro Prime remake announcement, we'll get our it'll end with stay tuned for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom direct coming later in the future. We'll get that in March. And then what else? That Mario? No, that's Mario game. The Metroid Prime, I think, is going to be one of the games make people happy. I think we'll have DLC for Pokemon, which is going to be very good. Can't wait for that. And then we'll have of course we can't forget about Wave 4 coming up as well. They'll announce Wave 4 in the direct and they release it.
I think that's a safe bet. Yeah.
So I think it'll be a good direct because it won't be the direct of our dreams. I think that'll come with the new
Mid.
console.
We're getting a mid direct.
Yeah, it'll be an okay direct. Okay, not even great, not even wonderful, not even.
But for people really into Metroid and Zelda, you'll be happy, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it'll have something for everybody.
So in other words, it's going to be an Andres direct. It's going to have F-Zero, Metroid,
Basically,
and Zelda.
you just described the perfect direct for Andres.
Yeah. So yeah.
Farming sims, especially that was the part that really.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be the part that'll make me throw my chair out the window, but it's fine.
But he's just letting the air in to get a fresh breath before Tears of the Kingdom drops in there.
Now, if they have farming stuff inside Tears of the Kingdom, I probably would somehow be excited about it.
I actually would be okay if there's like a little side farming thing. Like I
Or
know we're talking a lot of Zelda today, but I've always thought of ideas to expand on the whole Link as a house. Okay, so now what more can we do? Anyways, that's for a future podcast.
That's Minecraft.
Hoops, what are we thinking?
So I'm thinking some similar to what Mike is thinking. I feel like the fact that Zelda is coming out in the middle of the year kind of kiboshes a lot of the potential for the year, because I don't think because of Zelda they'll have anything too huge. They could have some good games, but nothing too huge leading up to it. And then after they will, because they'll obviously have like a holiday game. But I mean, I just don't see with the timing of Zelda and the fact that anything that they tried to announce would just be overshadowed. I feel like there's not going to be anything too huge going on in the direct. I think you'll obviously have Zelda. You'll have, I can see maybe one or two other significant announcements along the lines of like a Metroid teaser, or possibly we have not mentioned Pikmin 4 this whole time.
Right.
We could maybe get like a Pikmin 4 update or something like that. But I think it'll be mid-level. I think the quality will take over the quantity, and so like what we will get will be really good because you'll have like Zelda and then like one or two other like home run hitter type things. Yep. But there won't be like a lot of big stuff.
Yeah. I mentioned 2 third-party games. I forgot to mention 2 third-party games. That one is Genshin Impact, that's been coming to the Switch for 10 years, right? And then the other one is an unexpected one, Roblox.
Well,
yeah, just imagine throwing my chair out the window again.
Ready to set their tablets down and just play their Switches if Roblox comes over.
Right.
That'll solve the tablet problem in my house, I guess. All right, Paul Gale. What's up?
By simply having The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom there, that's already got to be a 10 for me.
Yeah.
Because you give me a 3-minute trailer that has finally some story elements and some voice acting, kind of like the 2017 trailer had, and real gameplay of what could Link do, and a little glimpse of, is there any time travel? Is there any just mystery? There's so much mystery around it. Just by Zelda being there, like, I'm going to be happy for 45 minutes if they have it at the beginning or the end, because I will watch that thing probably, a couple dozen times, equaling more than the length of the actual Nintendo Direct itself. So Zelda's going to be there. That's already perfect for me. There's been so much around Metroid that we always say it's the time now. Now is the right time for Metroid. But now is probably the most now time there is, unless if it's not there and it's at E3. But I could see Metroid being there. And if it's there, that just also makes it hype for me.
I'm cool if it's at E3. I'll play it before everyone else. I'm good.
Yeah.
If F-Zero is actually coming and that's there, GoldenEye 007, unless if it launches in January and that's there, and more details about the online and stuff like that, you don't need too many surprises to drop for me. We've got Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster coming out, Dragon Quest 3 down the road, which that's going to be a big one as well. Pikmin 4, as was mentioned previously. So, I think it's going to be a great Nintendo Direct. The only thing is, okay, there is going to be an E3, and you've got to assume that Nintendo's going to be at E3. could a couple of these titles that like, okay, we want to hear the September, November games, but they could be held for that E3 Nintendo Direct. So at most, Nintendo might say, stay tuned for our February Nintendo Direct as we talk about games leading up through the beginning of summer, or how they word it. But whenever they say that, like to the first half of the year, that's going to be till June 30th. But they'll probably say, and by the way, here's one more thing that's a little farther off. So I think we'll get one of those.
Yeah.
And then Nintendo usually has a game that comes out right before that fiscal year is done. You know, whether it's like Kirby and the Forgotten Land or Animal Crossing. So there might be something that we don't know about yet that is, you know, big enough but not monumental that comes out late March.
Yeah.
So there could be a, here, this is coming out in 6 more weeks. Or there's a, what game comes out during that ARMS time slot or that Mario Golf time slot? Something usually comes out in June. And at that point, you know, E3 is in June. So, or yeah, June. So I'm going to go with great. I'm going to go happy here and just enjoy the moment. And if I'm wrong, Zelda's got to be there, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't think we're getting a general direct
in February at all.
I'm throwing this out there right now. I think they're just going all in. It's going to be a Zelda only direct, followed by a Nintendo Treehouse. They're just going to go all out Zelda, and try to make us forget the fact that they haven't announced anything past Zelda but Pikmin 4. And then there'll be some sort of Twitter drop at some point in the future that drops some sort of game that's going to come in June, or maybe they decide to announce Pikmin 4 is coming in June. That's always possible. And really, we don't find out anything until everyone's all scared and we're all worried and we're like, oh, the second half of this year is going to suck and yada, yada, yada. And then the E3 is going to happen and it's going to blow out the entire second half of whatever surprises they have. Because we actually felt this way going into the early part of 2019. We didn't realize the second half of 2019 was going to be so banger. And Nintendo really kept their cards close to the vest. And then they just said, yep, here we go. I'm hardly giving you any time to prepare. Now buy all these games. And the second half of 2019 ended up being awesome. You guys remember like Luigi's Mansion 3? Hey, that was a mid-year announcement. So like, I'm just saying, I kind of think they're just going to say, you know what? We know we're going all out for Zelda. And then we'll drop everything later. And it sounds crazy. I understand. They could, like announcing a Mario game would still be a big deal. It's not like Zelda outshines Mario. They're two different types of games. But I just kind of get this feeling that the way they timed Tears of the Kingdom in May was kind of like you know why you guys haven't seen us really talking about this game yet? Because that's all we're going to be talking about for a little bit here.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
By the way, that would still be a 10 out of 10 direct for me because I mean it's Zelda.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Let's get that off my chest first. Like, because it's gonna have Tears of the Kingdom, there's no way it's not an outstanding Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
There's just no way. There's no way. That said, I think if you're not a Zelda fan, the Direct will be mid at best.
Yeah.
Like that I agree with, and I think, I mean. I, in my opinion, pretty much there's a few exceptions, but pretty much most directs are like 7 or 8 out of 10s for me. And what they typically do is, as you guys brought up, like they're more likely going to simply tell us what we need to know until their next direct. And that's what they're going to do. They're not going to tell us about the amazing Donkey Kong game that's coming out in September, right? They're not going to tell us about the Tears of the Kingdom DLC super story quest that's coming out in November, because they need to talk about just the game itself now, right? Like they're going to save the second half of the year stuff for June when they need to. Like, I mean, typically what Nintendo does with their directs is that they wait until they actually have to have the direct, right? And usually the best way to kind of guess when a direct is happening is just look at what we know about and the gaps. So yeah, I think February is probably the right time. Maybe they do announce something that happens sometime in March or April. I'm honestly not sure what that is. I'd love to say it's Metroid, but I think more likely Metroid is announced in a February direct. And I say Metroid, I mean Prime Remaster, and they say more details on Prime 4 later this year. So they don't actually even give us anything yet, but they will come later this year. And then Prime 4 is probably announced for like late summer, early fall kind of thing. And then Tears of the Kingdom will have a big emphasis. Obviously, Mario Kart DLC. Beyond that, I think if 2D Mario's happening, I actually feels like a pretty good summer game. Shortly, it's not too far removed from the movie, so you can take advantage of those sales. And 2D Mario would also be multiplayer, be like an ideal kind of summer game. Kids get out of school, they can play together. I think that might actually be the best idea. I wanted to say F-Zero, but I feel like I do believe F-Zero is coming out this year. I'm just not sure when they announced that. I feel like that maybe that's announced in the summer. There are people hinting at F-Zero, so it makes me think maybe sooner than later, but I'm just going to say I'm not expecting F-Zero yet, but I'm expecting a Prime remaster announcement, a Mario game announcement, more likely 2D for the summer, and then Tears of the Kingdom is going to be the star of the show. Probably in February, but if we do get a direct, like say it's announced next week or something, to me that says, oh yeah, there's new hardware coming out this year and they're getting announced it's done sooner so they can gear themselves up. But more likely, I'm expecting a direct in February.
All right. Well, damn, that was a good show, guys. Thank you. I want to thank all of our guests for being here. You guys want to give a quick plug to your channels and what you have coming? We can maybe start with Mike. I know he's getting a little tired over there. He actually stuck it out for the whole podcast.
Yeah,
with you, Mike.
I
know
wasn't.
you might not be feeling great.
I
You might
wasn't-
not be feeling great. However, your voice got better as the podcast went on. It's almost like
Nintendo helps.
there you go. Talking Nintendo is what you needed. That was your
Yeah.
medicine.
Yeah, that's yeah, you're right. You're right. Anyway, you can find me at Mike Odyssey on YouTube, at Mike Odyssey on YouTube, Mike Odyssey YT on Instagram and Twitter, and NintendoAcademy.com for news. I just launched the brand new website, MikeOdyssey.com, which is more personally
Oh,
for
it's public now. Yes.
the content creator, Mike Odyssey. It's a brand new website, just launched on January 1st. It went live. There you can find all of the videos, brand new merch specifically for this year, moving forward, and a lot more stuff that I will be adding to that website. So that's going to be the Nintendo Academy will still be alive. That's going to be our news website. We have MikeOdyssey.com, which is the content creator YouTube website. And then, of course, we have our YouTube channel.
I got a tip for your website.
Moving forward,
You should inject an RSS feed of Nintendo Academy's news onto the website.
under the Mike Odyssey website.
Yeah, on the Mike Odyssey website. So then it's like a hub for everything, and then they click on the article and it'll open up Nintendo Academy's articles.
Okay, I'll do that. And then there was one more thing that is looking pretty sure every now and then, but getting even better as I go along. And it looks like it could very well be a fully sanctioned, approved with this certain giant company present.
This isn't what I think it is it?
NCon 2024.
Like the company's present.
Yeah. I reached out to them. I reached out to the big N. I'm speaking in the
Things aren't really locked down yet.
I'm speaking in codes. Speaking in code is 99.9%, 0.9%. But I'm speaking in code until my signature is not down. But those of you know, I've been working on Nintendo Con for a while now. A year, right? It's been a year since we started working.
Yeah. Well, last year.
It's basically all Nintendo convention related. Just focus on Nintendo and all Nintendo IPs. I've made a lot of connections with all the interviews I've done with different voice actors or agents and then the companies that they work for. They've all set present. They literally all set present. They have the Super Mario cast complete. They're coming up. We're working on another cast who will be present as well. But one thing that I didn't really I got the licensing and the permission from the Nintendo, but I just happened to reach out to them one second time to just to talk over everything over, and then person I spoke to was very excited and over excited about the project because there's never been a convention that's just basically dedicated to just Nintendo in Orlando, Florida, next to Universal Studios, by the way. Super Nintendo World is opening the following year. So it just makes kind of perfect sense marketing wise that having Nintendo having a presence there for the Nintendo World, like an area to promote, and then having a presence there as well for trailers and announcements. So
I swear, if you get Nintendo demos there, I'm gonna freak out.
So that's what was spoken about in this meeting. Where I can talk about it now, but we'll continue to give you guys updates. But everything is looking very good, very positive. Right now, we're looking at the summer of 2024 for the event, and then we'll see what concurs. And they will also be financially supporting the event.
Prime for a demo, baby.
So it's a good thing. It's a good.
We're having like our own little like this has expanded so much beyond what I ever thought it was going to be. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's a big thing. I'm telling you, like I started small. I wanted to make like a convention because I love Nintendo. I wanted to make like a fan convention, I looked up Nintendo Con as a name. It was available. I purchased it. I LC'd it. I registered the name and everything. It was all available. I took it, with the hopes of growing it, with the hopes of actually putting together an event called Nintendo Con, right? And then this is before I started doing interviews with voice actors. The more I did an interview with voice actors, I spoke to them behind the scenes. What do you think about this? Blah blah. How is it? I just started making connections with behind the scenes with a whole bunch of people, and then just kept growing and growing and growing and growing, and until this is where we are now. So it's looking like we can have Mario characters there, the full costumes, the one that are going to be in Super Nintendo World, the same exact costumes promoting Super Nintendo World for the opening of 2025 in Orlando, Florida, and it's going to be across the street because it's the convention in the convention center for Orlando, Florida, by SeaWorld and Universal.
Booking flights tomorrow.
Yeah, so
let's go.
Yeah, man.
I'm ordering the Airbnb right now.
That's cool. Yeah, I've always had a dream to put together an event like that. I've worked with events before, but not something that I'm passionate about as much as this. So, I trust me, I'm building a team. That's the first thing they asked me. Do you have a team? Do you have a team? And I said, no, I don't, but I already have people in mind, Paul, and then I got people in mind, either Andre, and then I know Hoops also, and then Eric.
Hey, if you need someone to sweep the floors, I'm pretty good with a broom.
Yeah, cleanup crew.
But also, I'm really good at getting high scores on games. So if you need,
dude, I'm talking about. First thing I'm talking
about, level DK player there.
I'm inspired by the presentation that Nintendo did in one of these conventions where they just built the entire set of Animal Crossing to promote the game. That was just amazing, and I'm hoping to do the same exact thing but with different areas. Have the Hyrule there and have Hyrule look amazing afar, and then have the Mushroom Kingdom afar also.
A space frigate for Metroid.
Yeah, have the Metroid area look incredible as well, and have a section for each IP, being well represented, and also having the voice actors in that area also with the voice the cast of Mario being on their Mushroom Kingdom area, just having something so much fun and unique, like for people to experience Nintendo.
Panels would be cool too.
Yeah, we're gonna have panels. We're gonna have panels for sure. Panels, meet and greets. It's gonna be crazy, man. It's gonna be crazy. And I want something different. I want it to be a dream to go to. Like not just these fan conventions that but I want something to be like we're gonna have a day for special needs because I'm a very special needs. I'm a special needs dad. My daughter has autism. I was a teacher for my daughter. My wife is a teacher for 25 years. For an autism, and I've been working with children with autism for 10 years. So our combined experience working with children with Asperger's and autism, we're gonna have an entire day just for them, because I know the sensory and everything. They're gonna have their own area, and we're thinking about everything, man. and it's gonna be big. It's gonna be big.
It sounds amazing. I'm
And
all in.
hopefully it turns out into a yearly thing. This is the first year, but hopefully it turns out into a year thing, that an event that we can look forward to every single year. Nintendo Con. Oh, Nintendo Con is the summer. Let's all get together and just, you know. But yeah, man.
Huge.
This is
Yeah.
it just keeps getting bigger every time we talk about it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Paul, you want to follow that one up? What's where can people find you? What do you got going on?
All right, so I actually bought Nintendo. Okay.
Whoa.
So yeah, I'm gonna sign up on
Take
that.
all the permission.
No, yeah, Polyel Network on Twitter. Over there, usually I post, Japanese Famitsu sales data. Sometimes I drop something exclusive that I have recently learned, whether it's sales information or something like Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. That came, as Nate knows, like January last year, I think. It was like a good 12 months in the making. That was an exclusive. Also on Nate's website, nintendoprime.net, every Thursday morning or at some time during Thursday, I post up that Japanese Famitsu top 10, go over the sales of the software, the hardware, supply what is my anticipation for the market going further. I do that also on polygale.network.com. So that's my website. On YouTube, on Polygale Network. Also, as Nate said, I'm not as regular on YouTube in what I put up, but I've been going to E3 since 2000, and once in a while I share an old story from a past E3 or drop random photos or give a shout out to people that I've befriended along the way, folks that are nice. I always like to give back. People took the time and the opportunity to spend time with me at an E3 or at a convention, built up a personal friendship, and once in a while just spread some joy out there. So that's usually what I am doing on Twitter or on YouTube. And like Nate also said, Kit and Krista, formerly from Nintendo and Nintendo Minute fame, I teamed up with them a few months ago to do a Kit and Krista Karate and Calisthenics with Polygale Network program. So that's about gamer fitness. And so over on my channel, with them and their Discord community and stuff like that, I have little just workouts, free workout sessions that I am either talking about video games while exercising or just having a different face than your typical personal trainer or something like that. That's maybe a little bit more relatable, nerd strong kind of mentality. And that's been going well because what I do outside of video games is, I'm a university professor. I teach Shotokan karate, Taekwondo, Tai Chi Chuan. I'm a personal trainer. So bringing fitness.
We gotta get together. You mentioned I'm an instructor for Taekwondo.
Yeah. That's what I do. I mean, I love
like
it.
getting hit a lot, so I could come from that.
Yeah.
Bringing fitness to gamers, talking video games. I'll do unboxing videos on YouTube. I told Nate this a while ago, not gaming related, but I like Dragon Ball Z a lot. My original idea was to do this last year, but it's going to be this summer instead. 11 years ago, I did a Dragon Ball Z live action Goku Super Saiyan transformation video. Yeah.
I thought it was awesome.
That was like 7 weeks of designated workout and hardcore dieting, just made fun instead of like a before and after photo. Like, let me show you in a video form. Well, this July, I'll be 40. So I'm going to do like a 10 years have passed. Goku's in the hyperbolic time chamber. How does he look now? Find out on Dragon Ball Z. So I'm going to do a new video and like tie my old one in with what I look like this summer and hopefully get in better shape. And, just like I said, bridging what I like of video games and fitness and martial arts and anime and just, that's the audience that I kind of
Sounds
intend
beautiful.
to reach with that.
Let me tell you, 40 is not that bad. Don't worry, 40 is not that bad. I've been there for 2 years now, and it's not as bad as I thought.
I'm as young as I was mentally as any age. Like the games that I buy my kids for Christmas, I'm like, I'm playing Dragon Ball Kakarot 2. I'm playing Final Fantasy 2. Who did you buy this Sonic game for you or for your son and daughter? Like, for all of us, you stay young when you think young, and if you, anyways, that's where I'm at. That's kind of what I do. A little bit of this and that.
Awesome.
All right. Next up, Hoops.
Me, well, for those who don't already know, I'm Hoops and Hip Hop, and I'm primarily on YouTube where I cover Pokemon stuff of all kinds, always talking about what's going on, doing cool things. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. I'm even on, if you're on Spotify, Apple Music, that stuff. I've got remixes because once upon a time I did remixes and I still try and do them and stuff like that. So you can find me there. And I mean, I got a lot of cool stuff coming up this year. So it's going to be a good year to be following.
Hold up, do you take commissions on those remixes?
I don't typically take commissions, but I have in the past. It's mostly just a time thing because I'm just like busy. But yeah, that's kind of how I started off, and then I kind of expanded into other stuff.
Yeah.
But
That's pretty cool.
Nice. And go subscribe to his channel, guys. He's like this close to 300K. He's like,
I
teetering right on that edge.
Last I checked it this morning, and it was like I was like 300 away. So
there we go.
I'm
Seriously, if
pretty
everyone
close.
here who isn't subscribed went, that would get them halfway to just getting there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Andres, restart.
Hey, what's up?
Who are you? I'm not. You're a stranger.
I'm crazy.
All right, sorry.
What happened?
No, sorry. I'm looking for Hoops channel, and then I forgot to mute the YouTube thingy.
Oh, it's also looking in the description, so you can get to it quick.
Yeah. So this time I managed to spell my name right. So Andres Restart.
Yeah, I
You can
got
find
blamed
me
for
on
that last
YouTube.
week. Thanks. By the way, Nate, you
Wait,
spelled
what?
his name wrong. I'm like, I don't control how it's spelled, guys.
Yeah, no, that was all me. Yeah. So, but yeah, I make Nintendo content. In case you didn't know, you can find me on YouTube and Twitter. I don't have like any amazing projects like what have been described. I just have some video ideas I'm working on right now. Now, my goal.
You don't have a Nintendo con with a Taekwondo class going on at the same time?
No.
No.
Right now, I'm just working on trying to set up a more consistent release schedule and plan. Because I'm trying to transition to being a full-time content creator. That's kind of hard, but trying. We'll see. But anyways, in terms of projects, I am planning a live versus discussion of Wind Waker HD versus Twilight Princess. I mentioned this last week. This is why I'm playing through Wind Waker and I'll also play through Twilight Princess. So that's going to be set up. It's probably going to be officially announced sometime next week. It kind of just depends on news. Like if Switch 2 is announced next week, it's going to get pushed up. But, if there's no crazy news next week, that's probably when we're going to get that discussion. I just make Nintendo stuff. So check it out. It's all news, speculation, and fun discussions.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank all you guys for being here. If you guys don't know, we have an audio version of this podcast available everywhere podcasts are heard, including even on iHeartRadio, which does mean I shockingly heard last week's episode once randomly on FM radio, and I'm not really sure how that happened.
Wow.
I'm not sure how that happened, but apparently
Is it on iHeartRadio? Is it on
when you're
iHeart?
on iHeartRadio, sometimes it appears on one of their stations. So
Yeah, it does. When you have it on iHeartRadio, they randomly choose different episodes like that, and they give you
last episode played in my area. I don't know how many people heard it, but it's a really long. They must needed a really long segment taken up. I have no idea. Maybe why we got chosen, but anyways, I want to thank you guys for all the support and everything. Of course, all the live viewers, any new viewers that maybe came in from other people's channels. I always appreciate meeting new fans and everything. We're on our road to 100,000 subscribers. I don't know if we'll get there this year, but that's kind of a goal this year. We just hit 83,000 today, so that's fun. It's neat. We'll see where the rest of the year takes us, but you guys know what I do.
Did you read any super chats tonight?
I read all the super chats,
Okay.
including Blue Moon, who wanted me to specifically mention that he agrees with Mike and Twilight Princess is coming, and I'm wrong about everything.
Thank you, Blue Moon. Thank you. By the way, thank you. Blue Moon sending me she's sending me a 3DS so I can play the Twilight, not a Twilight. What's that game called? Zelda, something about the future and past and
Link
present.
Between Worlds.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
There we go. I like the future and the past. A Link to the Past. No,
It's a minute. Yeah, it's a minute.
Ocarina of Time.
I need NyQuil.
There's multiple games like that.
What happens when you buy the cheap brand on NyQuil, like the store brand? It's not. It's good.
Oh yeah. The brand that kind of messes you up. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for everyone being here. And hey, well, I'll be back next week. Mike will be back. We'll see you. What else is on the 6-pack next week? Next week. Okay, maybe.
I'm working on my
Well,
6-pack.
Eric will be
I'm
here.
starting to jog a little.
I don't.
Nobody. You know what I read in the chat? Nobody noticed that Eric wasn't even around.
I noticed.
Poor Eric.
Poor Eric. He'll be back next week, I think. I don't know. I don't know his schedule.
I don't have to dust. Guys, remember me for wanting to open Nintendo Con.
And journey on. Just remember
Journey
journey on. All right. All right, guys. We'll catch you. Well, I'll catch you next week. Well, these guys will catch you whenever.
Bye.
Thank you.